Hello, everybody, and welcome into my latest live video. It is Sunday, the 21st of May, 2023, and I'm your host, Gary Holzman. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Hold on just a second here. I just realized I've got my microphone on the wrong side. Okay. Had it in my left pocket instead of my right pocket, and I had to step off camera to sneeze. All right, we are live. Thank you, Winston Liu, with the $2.20 Canadian contribution in Super Chat. Right on, I appreciate you. Yesterday, if you were watching, I was trying to, as an afterthought, add a Generation 5 NVMe SSD to the big robot's foot build, which was never originally planned for that. In fact, when those parts were assembled for that particular motherboard prep, Mitch was with me, and there were no such thing as Generation 5 NVMe SSDs at that time. So I wasn't really thinking of putting one in, although I did know they were coming out, and I made the assumption that if and when that should happen, I could just pop it in there. And clearly, that's not the case, and there's a lot of other caveats that we'll get into regarding Generation 5 NVMe SSDs. The point of the video was simply to tell you what to expect, which isn't much. You'll see big numbers, but very little results. So if you're after those big numbers and don't care about the actual real world results, spend your money. You'll spend a lot of it. You need a high-end motherboard. You're probably going to need DDR5. And of course, trying to get your hands on an NVMe Gen 5 drive is difficult currently, and they're like the maximum size I know of is 2 terabytes. So you'll spend as much for that 2 terabyte drive as a 4 terabyte previous gen. But it's your money. And you want to go a second or two faster in your load times between levels of the games, that's what it'll achieve. If you don't believe me, there's a couple of links that I've added to the video description below this video that will show you side-by-side loading of different games, loading different levels with Gen 3, Gen 4, to Gen 5, all in a separated, what do we call that? What do you call that? There's like 3 videos side by side, all at the screen at the same time, so you can race them. Anyway, those videos are down in the video description, and you'll see after you spend all this money and all this time and all this effort, you get about 1 second back for every 14 seconds of I/O from Gen 4. And you get about 2 seconds back from every 14 seconds of I/O on Gen 3. Those are your real world differences, with some rare exceptions in the industry for specialized use case scenarios, which would not represent likely anybody watching this video. But if anybody, there'd be maybe 2 people out of the entirety of thousands that will watch this. So right now, it just doesn't make any sense. It's just going so fast, and it's so unnecessary for most of us that we wouldn't notice it other than running benchmarks. But I wanted to prove it, and I thought it would be easy enough to just slap the drive in the pre-existing machine and demonstrate why you shouldn't. And turns out there was a whole nother reason why you shouldn't. And that turns out to be that finding motherboards that allow for Gen 5 NVMe, on average, you're spending $480 to $1,300 for the motherboard. On average. You didn't mishear me. An MSI Godlike board is about $1,300 for the motherboard. Other boards regularly somewhere around the $500 to $700 price point. And I was about to give up hope on this and set it aside for another day because I was really, really disappointed with yesterday's video results. So I put the original 4 terabyte Western Digital SN850X back into the robot's foot and said, okay, this configuration that I originally designed, it needs no improvement. I've already designed it so well, pat myself on the back, there's no upgrade from here. So we're setting that aside, and we'll continue with that build later as we put in the 3090 Ti Founders Edition and the, it's a For the Win 3, not a Founders Edition. And what else did we have to add? Oh, the Strimer RGB cable. Yeah, that's what I just said. Thanks for paying attention.
Right, I wasn't.
So anyway, so we set that aside. So I'm looking on Amazon. I'm reading through your comments. People are leaving messages recommending motherboards that are $600 or more. Well, recommending motherboards that say they're PCIe Gen 5 and making the same error in judgment I made by not looking at the details that it does not support Gen 5 M.2 NVMe. So, and I pointed that out. This isn't so easy, is it? People, sometimes the viewers are like, oh, all you got to do is do this, Kerry. And then you're like, well, did you even look at what you wrote? Because that frustrates me, right? Because I don't like when people offer suggestions that are no better or different than what I already said. It's like, why did you bother? But on the other hand, there was a particular suggestion, and well, it's sitting here in front of me. This is the Z790 PG riptide from ASRock. And so what I did was I'm looking on Amazon, and I'm saying to myself, I really, I've got this. I want to test it. I want to make, stubbornly, I want to make the video I've been trying to make, which is to tell you why you shouldn't do this. So I need a motherboard specifically for that purpose. So I started thinking about, what would this be good for? And I thought, well, it would be good for anything but gaming. Well, what's wrong with gaming? Well, this is a $200 board, this ASRock board, and it's the cheapest I could find that will take Gen 5 NVMe, but it comes at a cost. And that cost is your graphics card slot, your PCIe top slot, that's a by 16 slot, is going to run at half speed when you plug a Gen 5 SSD into it. The data lanes have to come from somewhere. And you can buy these bigger, more expensive boards that have more expensive chipsets that have more lanes of traffic if you want to do that. And there's many other boards and many of the same ways that if you populate all the M.2 slots, you're going to subtract the amount of performance from each drive in order to have that many drives. And we'll talk more about this because I've got a review coming up with an ASUS Store M.2 based NAS drive. And it'll take 6 M.2 drives, and it runs as a NAS. And it's really small, kind of looks like a router, but it's only got a Celeron processor in it. So that means each of the 6 M.2 drives will only run it by one speed. So instead of 3,000, 3,500 megabytes per second, they only run it 1,000, but they do so times 6. So you're getting 6,000, but you're not getting 18,000. Anyway, it's a whole math thing, and it wouldn't matter because you couldn't transmit over your network anyway. But we'll cross that bridge later next week. And so I decided, okay, so we're not going to use a graphics card in this because what's the point? Unless you're going like a 1660 or some low-end graphics card, and you're limited at that 8x bottleneck. It's not going to make a great gaming PC, right? Not one that would justify this level of componentry. Save some money, go Gen 3, go Gen 4, spend more money on your GPU. That's where the emphasis should be, on the gaming side of things, in my opinion. Now, to use this as for a computer for literally any other purpose than gaming, I really only need an i5. So I looked at different i5s. The 13600K was too much money. So I saw the 13500, not a K, just a 13500, which is a 13th gen i5. This thing has what, something like 14 cores, 20 threads, 4.8 gigahertz instead of 5.1. I mean, it's the same amount of cores, the same amount of threads as the 13600, I think. Anyway, it's fine. So it was $247, which was almost $100 cheaper than the 13600K. And they could deliver it overnight. I also needed some DDR5 RAM, and this Team Force Vulkan DDR5, which shipped to me in this plastic bag, is 6,000 megahertz. I didn't want 6,000. I think that's overkill. I wanted 5,400. And the Corsair Vengeance was $92.99 for the 5,400. This was also $92.99 for the 6,000 and could be delivered overnight. And then they had a 5,400 version of this for $87. And I thought $5 extra for the overnight shipping and the added. So the 6,000 is your top speed. It's not the speed you're running at. That is the maximum speed you could potentially run at if your board and your chip supports it. So don't let that throw you, that just because you put in a higher megahertz frequency of RAM that it's going to automatically run faster. It doesn't automatically do that. And even when you turn XMP on, that may not result in getting you all of that. So that should be old hat. Those of you who've been watching my channel for a while. So all of this arrived, well, with the exception of this, because I had this from yesterday. The motherboard, the CPU, and the RAM arrived overnight from Amazon. So I didn't know if this video was going to happen. This is how fast things happen in my world. And that's why when you guys talk about research and this, I don't have time for that. Everything's moving too quickly. And I can't sit there and focus too much time on any one thing for fear that I'm going to drop all these other things over here. So I got to choose very carefully how to balance and keep these plates all spinning. And everything happens in my world very, very quickly. Now, one other thing I want to mention is this CPU comes with a heatsink and a fan. And it is on sale today, hours after I bought it from Amazon. Instead of $247, which is what I paid not 19 hours ago, it's $209. $209 for this. So guess what I did? Amazon will not match their own prices. There's no sense even reaching out to customer service. You're just wasting your time. All they're going to tell you is return it. So I've already filed a return for this. We're going to use it, and then we're going to return it. And I've already ordered 2 more. Why did I order 2 more? Okay, well, for $209, that's a really good price. I need 1 to replace this one that I'm returning. I need 1 for a build that Mitch and I are going to do. And I thought it's going to be a perfect chip for us because I want to do 13th gen, and I don't want anything too hot or too difficult to cool. You with me? So in that, I'll get a $40 credit when I send that back, which costs me nothing. And today, this build, when we're done, I'm not going to put it in a case yet. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand this over. I'll put it in some kind of a basic case and power supply it and just slap it together with no pretty cable management and hand it over to Camera Girl to let her make some thumbnails on it, see how it compares with the 11th gen Dell XPS that she's been using to make these thumbnails. And she said it's locked up on her a couple times. So I'd be kind of curious, even though this is nowhere near that level of a CPU in that tier. It is 2 generations newer and 2 tiers lower, but that may be exactly the right mixture of things for everything to flow through graphical manipulations and thumbnail creation, or it may be horribly, horribly wrong. And the data I/O on that as she loads big images in and out may be something she notices or feels more than notices. I'm not a fan of ASRock in the sense that I don't sell ASRock to my customers. However, I'm always open-minded and I'm always willing to try again after a couple of years, see if a company's products have gotten improved. And my last ASRock board was my Studio PC back at Studio A. And it drove me nuts when I enabled XMP, the boot time, the post. It trained the memory every single time I had to turn the computer on. And it seemed to take 3 to 4 times longer for it to get past the post with XMP on, which to me defeated any benefit from having the XP on. I'm at a deficit now. It took longer to boot. Now I'm supposed to make up for that time with the computer responding faster. So it's got to catch up just to level off. So I was better off with XMP just turned off. Now, because I always left the computer on, I think I just left XMP on because I would just grit my teeth when I had to reboot. But it was enough to make me never want to buy an ASRock again. Now, that's been a couple of years. There's obviously been improvements in the UEFI BIOSes. It's evolved quite a way. Or has it? We'll find out today. So let me look in the chat room, see how everybody's doing. Say hello to all my friends in blue. Welcome in, everybody. Good to see you all. John P. wanted to know if I can recommend a mini PC that could... A low budget, high quality trading PC? No such thing. If you're spending thousands or tens of thousands of dollars buying and selling stocks and bonds and other commodities online, you don't want a low budget computer. That's like me saying, can you recommend a very cheap, inexpensive, but reliable car that I can use to earn a living with Uber? And it's got to be just the cheapest of the cheap. Well, your car's going to be in the shop. It's not going to be reliable. It's not going to be highly sought after for people that are looking for a car to be ridden in, right? Because like UberX and other levels of cars get paid more money because they're more desirable vehicles. And while your car's in the shop getting work because you didn't spend much money on it, or while you're waiting for your car to do something, which is in the case of a budget PC, and on Wall Street, you're missing opportunities because they happen quickly. I cannot recommend something that is both fast, reliable, and low budget. Those two things, or those three things, you can, I think you can pick two of those things maybe, but not all three. If you're serious about trading online, and that's going to be your main tool that enables you to make your trades, I think you're a fool to spend less. You need to spend more. You need to buy as much as you can afford to buy, because you're going to live and die financially by that responsiveness of that computer. And ideally, you want that computer to last for years. So no, I would not recommend a low budget computer to do high budget trading. Absolutely not. Any trading at all, it's just too risky. I would recommend at a very minimum, a 12th generation i5 Intel NUC or something equivalent, and nothing lower than that. And even that, plan to replace it in 3 years. If you want something you want to last 8 years, and it's a mini PC you want, you should be looking at something higher up in the processor range. You know, an i7, an i9, a Ryzen 7, Ryzen 9. Get further up there. You need that power and you need that performance. That's my opinion. Or don't, if you just can't afford a good PC, don't go into stock trading. Just don't do it. I'm telling you, man. I'd hate to see you lose your shirt because your computer didn't work that day or the website didn't refresh fast enough. And now you, especially with day traders, it's very stressful. Let's see. Sarge Tech says hello to Maralina. Trevor says, when you set up the new board, make sure in the BIOS the NVMe is set to Gen 5. Some motherboards default to 3.4. I'm not going to do that, Trevor. I'm going to turn it on, power it up, and we're going to run the tests. If the tests do not perform as expected, then I'll go looking for a problem. I am not the kind of person that goes looking for bizarre, unexperienced, never before experienced problems to justify my imagination to go chasing and wasting my time chasing imaginary things. So I will respond and react if needed, but otherwise I just don't have time for that. I see so many people, they steer their lives through trying to avoid problems, and I will direct people through being proactive, but for very common and expected things to happen to all of us. Not on some chance that maybe, no, I don't do that. Just so you know, it's just not the way my brain works, and it's also because I'm busy. I got a lot of things going on. I don't have the time to treat each thing by forecasting future problems that I have no basis upon which to build any justification for that time and research to look for something I don't know what I'm looking for to solve a problem, not only that I'm not having, but that I've never had before. Now, if it happens, my story will change. But until that happens, yeah, not interested, but I appreciate the suggestion. Al Edge says, I bought the Ace Magician AD15 using your link. Right on. Well, you'll have to let me know what you think of it. Everything but that darn SATA drive, which didn't make any sense. And if you need the drivers for the AD15, you can email me and I'll send you a link. You can download the drivers just to have them in your library in case you ever need to do a Windows 11 reinstall. See. Planet Cryos with a $5 contribution says, don't go chasing waterfalls, stick to the rivers and lakes you're used to. It's just about time, man. If I was retired, I had nothing else better to do and I could poke around and sort of, you know, mosey around in a BIOS and poke here and poke there. That'd be wonderful. I haven't lived that life in a long time. It's go, go, go. I've got 20 computers sitting here. I moved out 40 earlier, right, in the last 12 months, and I'm the only one doing the work. And now Mitch and I are building another one, likely this Friday, I hope, and that's going to be 21 that's going to sit here. This one I'm building today, that's going to be 22. Neither of these computers has any destination other than to make the content. Once the content is made, there is no future plans for those computers, but I'm hoping something will come up because that's usually what happens. And so I kind of, set something in motion, let the momentum carry it, and while that's being carried off, I go push something else. I am just spinning plates, a lot of plates. So do keep that in mind. I'm running a business. I'm my only employee. This is not a hobby. This is something I earn a living doing, and the less I do, the less I get paid. All right, so let's take a look at Chris Johnson says hello. Mortant says hello. Patrick Rusaw, Garfield Rupe, and Viable Solutions all saying hello, as does Todd B. Katrina H, Duncany, Flipper Flop, LRCX saying hello. Joe Carander. Planet Crass contributed $2 earlier, said carries on, grab a drink and some popcorn, peeps. You got that right. This will be interesting. Terrell Cochran says, was the link I posted yesterday on your video helpful? I have no idea, Terrell. I get so many requests. You have to be very, very specific and tell me what it was you said and ask me if that was. I don't know what you wrote. I don't know if you fully comprehend the number of messages and people that are constantly reaching out to me. I have no recollection of what anybody has said. You can't just do that. It's like me saying, did you like that movie with that guy who did that thing? You saw that, right? You'd be like, what are you talking about? I've seen a lot of movies with guys that did things. Don't take it personally. It's just the scale of this is really, really big. And we have a lot of conversations going on with potential sponsors. We have people inquiring about support questions. I have customers reaching out. And then there's comments and such left on the YouTube channel. So if you're more specific, I can tell you, but I don't know what you're referring to. I threw a rock in the pile of rocks. Did you like it? Which one's yours? Maybe I did. Just asking you to think of it from my vision, all right? And we can be a little more helpful to each other. Eugene Hidalgo says hello. Welcome in, Eugene. And Matthew Burden, Dave E, Nelson Contreras, Jonathan and Daniel C, Marsman 50. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome. I saw something earlier, Thomas MacT, who apparently he lost his membership at some point and was picking it back up. And, from his perspective, he's been a member for 12 months and should have the 12 badge. I have no control over that. So if your payment to YouTube didn't go through for some reason, he mentioned when I was in Michigan, I don't do anything with YouTube payments. I can't control them. I can't refund them. I can't credit them, none of it. So when I leave and went to Michigan, it has nothing to do with the YouTube payment system. That is rock solid. It doesn't change no matter where my location is. It has nothing to do with you guys. No impact on you guys. So if something happened and it was just coincidental that it happened while I was away, it not only had nothing to do with anything I did, there's nothing I can do. So while I appreciate that you're a supporter of the channel, whatever flaw happened was between you and YouTube. It had nothing to do with me. And YouTube controls those badges. I don't control those. I cannot turn those on and off. I can only set what they look like. YouTube is the one that distributes those or removes those. And I have no access to any of that. It's not offered to me in any way, nor do they give me any contact information. I don't know what department that is. No idea. So unfortunately, that's where we're at. If I created my own website, my own paywall, and created my own ability to auto bill people, then I would have all of that. but then I wouldn't have the internal APIs to push things out to your avatars. So it's a give and take on both sides of it. But I do want you to have an understand where my restrictions are. And it's just YouTube, and it's a YouTube thing. And there is no creator on YouTube that can do that. Just doesn't exist. So what you do with YouTube is between you and YouTube, even if it is to support me. Sorry to say. I can't even go to bat for you. I don't even have a contact I can reach out to. So do understand that if you are going to be a supporter of the channel, you are supporting YouTube in that way, and YouTube is controlling that membership. I am not. They're simply sharing the revenue that they're collecting from people with the creator, and the creator can make these badges to honor and encourage and reward the membership. And so if something happened where your membership got dropped and then picked back up, that's something you have to take up with YouTube, and I don't even know how you would. I would advise, please continue to stay as a member, and your badge will just grow accordingly. If another payment gets missed for any reason at all, and it's not paid within that certain window of time that YouTube determines, then, again, I'm right back where I was. I cannot change that. I know you've been here a long time. I know it, but I can't do anything about it. You can't pay me directly. It doesn't change that if that's important to you. But if it is important to you, just stay the course and you will get there. I'm sorry to hear that whatever that was that happened didn't happen to anybody else. It was something unique with you and YouTube at that time while I was away. I had no idea what it was. But I appreciate that it means so much to you. And I appreciate you supporting the channel regardless of my inability to prove that in the way that you'd like me to. I can't. Otherwise I would. Rest assured, I would gladly do that for you. All right. So let's do close-up camera time.
Okay.
Chuck D says, "Saludos, Dr. Kerry, all the way from the island of Puerto Rico. The more I watch your programs, the more I learn. Gracias, señor." Chuck D. Hola, mi amo Kerry. Mucho gusto. Hold on, I got to go through all the Spanish I know. Is that it? Una cerveza, por favor. That's not right. ¿Dónde está el baño? Oh, that's because of the cerveza. Mi perro es muy amable. No, that's it. I'm out. Don't talk back in Spanish. I'll have no idea. It's good. You know what? I've been to Puerto Rico. I've been to San Juan, and it was a layover for an airline flight. Does that count? I asked if I could collect some Puerto Rican money because I collect money from other countries, and they looked at me like I am the idiot that I am. They're like, "You want a dollar bill?" I'm like, "No, not the American money, the Puerto Rican money." They're like, I lived my whole life in Puerto Rico. We've never had anything but American dollars. I don't know what you're talking about. Whoopsie. Let me just get a couple bottles of rum here on my layover. All right, let's go over to good camera girl to work here with the close-up camera. You ready?
Ready.
Come on over. There she is. All right, so take a look at the parts. Don't look at me, look at the parts. Chuck D says, "You are the man." All right, I don't know why they put this like it's a sandwich. I guess they wanted to keep it fresh, because I thought that's what the box was for. That's our Vulcan. So again, I could have purchased Corsair memory for the same price, but I haven't had very good luck with Corsair anything, quite frankly. And the opposite is true. And then, of course, the deal cincher was that I could have this overnight. So for the same price, I could have this overnight, and this was rated faster, even though I'm not going to use it. This pissed me off. Paid $247 for that 19 hours ago, and now it's $209. That is a massive price cut. But I have 30 days to return it for free, so that's going back to the UPS store. No box or address label needed. Just I'll put it back in the box and kick it back out to them. This is our drive from yesterday. I pulled it back out of Robot's foot, put it back in the box. I've left the Windows 11 install on it, so we should be able to just plug it in. Hopefully that'll just work. This is our ASRock Z790 PG Riptide. Now, I was concerned because the Amazon website that shows this doesn't really tell us much about it, and they add an extra R at the end. Like, what's that mean? What's the extra R? If you look at the Amazon page for this, and I can share it with you here, right here, let's go to my window capture. You can take a break for a minute. You don't have to turn it off. You can just take a break for a minute. This is the ASRock MB790 PG Riptide, but then there's this extra R. And there's nothing on ASRock's website that indicates a model that has the R. So I'm like, well, what does that R mean? And at $229.99, it was the cheapest motherboard that supported one M.2 slot at PCIe Gen 5. See, one? Oh, that's the slot. That's not the M.2. That's the actual slot. And then the website is pretty sparse of any information at all. It's pretty well just nothing. No information. There's a couple of reviews. And using the Gen 5 will cut our top slot in half speed. You'll be at half speed on this slot here on the graphics. It's typically where your graphics card goes if you use this top slot, which should be the Gen 5 slot in Gen 5 mode. So we've purchased a GPU that has built-in video. And as you can see, it went from $247 last night to $209.99. That's a really good deal because you're looking at 14 cores. That's 6 performance and 8 efficiency cores and 20 threads. Now, if you compare that to a 13600K, I want you to see the price. So the 13600K will not come with a heatsink and fan the way this one does. Scroll down. It's $100 more. It's exactly $100 more. And you're getting, look, 14 cores, the same 6 performance cores, the same 8 efficiency cores, but up to 5.1 gigahertz instead of 4.8. That's pretty much it, and the fact that it's unlocked. So I'm not spending an extra $100 for that. On top of that, you got to come up with a pretty good cooling solution for this because it's going to get a little toasty. So I was happy to spend $247 because it was $60 less, but this morning it became $100 less. So if you're looking for a nice, pretty high-end machine, this is faster than i7s of yore. More cores, faster frequencies, and a fraction of the price. That's a steal all day long. So that's the logic. And then I think up here, I think I have my team. Yeah. So with team, this is the Vulkan Alpha DDR5. And I think I got it in gray. I don't know. See, there's the 6000. And then there's the 56. What I say, 5400? I meant to say 5600 at $87.99. Then Corsair has their Vengeance line, pretty aggressively priced, honestly. And I'm not opposed to them, but I honestly, if you let me choose my choice, everything else being the same between Team brand memory and Corsair memory, I'm going to grab the Team memory regardless of price. I just find it to be more reliable. I'm having less problems with it. And I have had good RMA experience with Corsair, but I don't want to have any RMA experience with anybody. So we'll see what happens. But that's the logic I used as I was trying to figure this out yesterday after the video to try and get it sorted through so that I could have a video up as quickly as possible. So here is our ASRock. It's a full-size ATX board. I've never opened this. Let's hope there's no problems with it. It would have been nice for who's ever controlling that Amazon page to put a little more information about the board on there. This has a killer manufacturer. Killer is the name of the network card manufacturer. They're specialized in making network cards optimized for gaming, just like Intel and Realtek. There is Killer. I think they're a waste, but you know, to each their own. Are we ready for the close-up again? Come on over. Oh, wait a minute. I'm back on the window capture. There you are. Okay. So there's the information on the back of the box that, you know, again, would have been nice if somebody put it on Amazon. Maybe I will. And let's take a look at what's in the box. I have no idea. It's been a while since I've used an ASRock board, but this is for the channel, and it may eventually get sold to somebody if I feel confident in it. I'm not expecting to not feel confident in it, or I wouldn't have bought it. I am optimistic that this will be fine. And I know it'll be fine for today. I don't know how it'll be fine. This is kind of cool. I like how they have this little foam. So there's our board, and then in the box, if we look back here in the box, lift this up, and we should have, oh, more boxes. What's in there here? We have a SATA cable. Do you need a key? This is the key to your life right here.
Sounds weird.
I like it. Give me a few minutes alone with that. We've got an M.2 screw. 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 And we've got an M.2 screw. Oh, and we have a sticker that makes it go 10% faster. And an owner's manual, which we might have to refer to later. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna take all these M.2 screws out of their bags because I think they should be on the board, because that's where you're gonna go looking for them a few months' time when you've got to upgrade. And it's not, I'm just glad that they put each screw into its own individually bagged, because, you know, I want to make sure that I leave behind a record that I was here by filling up the landfill as needlessly as possible with things that will take 10 times my body's decomposition for this to biodegrade. And people will say, SOB, we're still poisoning the land with this guy's damage. Hey, blame the manufacturer. It wasn't my idea, okay? I would have put these on the board. And as you can see by how much I really want to reuse these plastic bags. Look, they all have a little Loctite on the end of them. Wow, there's a lot. Why are there so many? How many do we have? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, okay. Thought maybe they gave us one extra and I didn't want to cut it out of the bag. Now, this board does not have built-in Wi-Fi. What it has is M.2 Wi-Fi, so you can put a little like AX210 Intel Wi-Fi card, which is typically used in laptops and tablets, and then run the antennas somehow. Are there holes back here maybe? I'm going to leave the screws in place because that's where they should have been from the factory as far as I'm concerned. Now, there are 2 more M.2. See this big heatsink? There's an M.2 on each side of this. So if I want to put these screws in place, I'm going to have to take the heatsink off. Even though I don't really need anything under there today. They call this their M2 Armor, just a big heatsink with thermal pads underneath. And we'll just go ahead and put these screws in place so we have them where they need to be when we need them. Good luck finding that when you need to find it if it's not already screwed in a year or 2 or later from now. Good luck. Okay, that's all I needed that for, so I'll put that back on. Some people are very organized. I like those people. Those people are few and far between. Okay, so that's 4 of the screws in, just for future reference. Don't want to go looking for them. This should be, I'm making a guess here, okay? I've not looked at the documentation, obviously. This should be our Gen 5. Oh, we have 2 in here? What's going on here? I see one here, and I see one here. How does that work? They face each other, right? Am I seeing things? What the heck? This one goes that way, and this one goes this way. This must be a one or the other, because one is not lower. I don't think they can overlap. Besides, that would generate a lot of heat. What is happening? Wait, what does that say up there? Does that say Gen 5? Looks like it says Gen 5. They all say Gen 5 or just that one? What does that one say? Yeah, that one, this is the only one that says Gen 5. So without reading the manual, I'm going to bet that's our guy right there. So the problem I have now is that this is in the way. So it looks like it's one or the other, and we have to move this little standoff from here to here. That's what it looks like to me. Should I look at the manual? I don't know. There's a sense of pride. I don't want to stop and ask for directions, even though this is a route I've never taken. It just feels right. I'm reading the signs, going by the signs. So if we take this one out, move it over here. Weird that, I mean, I would have set it up this way by default. But it may be that the Gen 5 drives weren't yet on the market when this board came out, which I would understand that decision if that's what they decided to do. So I'm going to go ahead and take this drive back out. And remember, we took this out yesterday, so I've just reboxed it. You'll see I put it in this way, so when I grab it, I don't have to grab it by the connecting end, which is how they should have packaged it. And the connector is the same regardless if it's Gen 3, 4, or 5, so there's no way to tell from just the connector. And then that's our last, our 5th M.2 screw going in. We can peel the tape off of this. A lot of people put these back on without removing the tape. There is a little extra right here. Just grab the extra, peel it when you're ready to put it back on. And put it on the same, did it go on this way or did it go on that way? Pretty sure it went on all the words facing towards the bottom of the board. Feeling pretty confident about that. It's pretty normal. Am I missing it? Gotta feel it. Okay, done. Now let me just put this into the landfill and I'll be back. City won't recycle that, so. Okay, now, CPU time, CPU time. Hello, CPU that's gonna be with me for one day and then I'm sending you back where you came from. Or maybe I'll keep this one and send one of the new ones back, and then they don't have to deal with an open box. That makes it easier on them. See what a nice guy I am? So thoughtful. Unless they kick it back and tell me the serial number on the box doesn't match. I don't think they'll do that. Okay, so on this side of things, what is holding this? Something's got it. That was weird. Now, I like that it's black. Ooh, wow. Intel has upgraded their coolers, and now they're plastic. Because nothing staves off heat like plastic. Okay, look what they've done here. I've never seen this. This is my first time. This is the metal traditional heatsink that's that tall, like you'd expect. And then they've got this shroud that holds the fan on that fits in between some of the fins on the metal heatsink with a copper core. That's good. I like to see that. Thermal compound has been pre-applied from Intel, so we don't need to add any to this. Let's keep this free of any sort of
contaminant.
Yeah, but there was a word I was looking for. Deteriorate. Keep this. Let's not get this dirty. Try to avoid touching it with your fingers. There's a word. Begins with a D. Not deteriorated. Not contaminated. Starts with a D. I'll tell you in about 2 hours when it comes to me. Just remember when I randomly shout out this word. Anyway, just try and keep that free of any sort of unnecessary dust or contact with anything. Then in here, well, there's our documentation with our Go Faster sticker right there. Because, yeah, everybody reads that. And then these CPUs, you got to pull out the cardboard from inside and lift it up. And then these chips are just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Detritus? No, I wasn't thinking of detritus. I was thinking of deterioration, something to do with the quality of the thermal material degrading. I'll come up with it. Okay, so, whoa, did you see that thing jump out of my hand? Here's our chip. I'm going to try and get the right light on it. You don't move. I'm going to move to you. Okay. And to put this in, let's see, I do this backwards so you guys can see better. I want you to keep in mind, nobody in their right mind would be doing this backwards. Unless you're some kind of video maker. Okay, well now, now you can't see it. So let's just go sideways and meet me in the middle on this one. Now, normally the writing on the chip on Intel boards and on Intel chips usually flows towards the bottom of the board, all in one direction, just like the writing on the heat sinks. But there's also a little gold triangle, which is somewhere. Good luck finding it. It's super, super tiny. Super, super tiniest triangle ever. And then there'll often be like a little triangle. Yeah, it's right there. So those two triangles are going to meet, so it's going to go in that way. Now, we have 1,700 little delicate pins in there. And you want to be absolutely certain that there's no damage to those pins. They should all look uniform. There shouldn't be any splotches or anything that draws your eye as, you know, breaking the pattern. And when I put this in, I'm going to push it to the edge to this. There's a little rim running around, and I'm going to push it to the rim, not to the pin. And do you see there's two notches cut out at the bottom of the CPU? And you see how those two notches are going to fit right into the rim? Can you see that at all with the camera? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower it as straight as I can and just let it go. And it should rest within this rim. And I can grab the edges, just the edges, and try and wiggle it, and it won't wiggle. Don't push down on it. That is not touching those pins. Believe that or not, we're sitting just above the pins. And I mean just above. Okay, so by pushing down on this when you're installing it, you could make contact with those pins and bend them. They're very delicate. Just be gentle, be courteous. You can put all the pressure you want against the edge. That's the process I use. When we push this lid down, back in the old days, these used to pop up on their own, but they don't do that anymore. So we're going to take that off. This protects the pins. And if you ever need to send the board back for any reason under warranty, you'll need to remove your CPU and cover those pins back up with this piece, or your warranty will be rejected. Now, when I pull this lever down, you see this little metal, there's a little metal hook right here. That's going to push down on this little fork. And then these two arms, you see this little bent in arms right here? We're going to push that CPU down on top of those pins. So we're going to need some strength. And we're going to push, 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 and then hold it down underneath that hook right there. We now are fully contacting the 1700 pins with the 1700 pads on the bottom of the CPU. And now we're ready to put our heatsink on. Now the Intel heatsinks are super easy to put in. One of the things I look for is where the power cable's coming out. We don't want to cross over the fan. We don't want to any way block this fan. So if I know where the CPU fan header is, which it says right here, CPU fan 1 and CPU fan 2, then we know that that's going to plug in right there. Okay, so I want you to picture this in your head. If this is going to plug in here, then do we want this to be plugged in this way? No, 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 no. Do we want it to be plugged in this way? No, 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 no. We want the shortest possible route to where it's going to be plugged in at. So we're going to get this cable, this end of it, to be as close to the other end of it, like that. And now we can seat the heatsink down and simply press down any one of these plastic towers. Just push it straight down. Now do the opposite. Do the opposite corner. Hello. Hello. Is it? This is super easy, folks. It's really, really super easy. I don't know what my problem is today. These spin so that they can be unlocked. Out of the box, they should be in a locked position, and I don't think this one was, and I think that's why. But I don't know which way it turns to be locked. If it turns to my left, or does it turn to my right? Left would be counterclockwise. Left would be clockwise. And in order for me to see it, I need to, it'll be written somewhere on here. There should be an arrow. Well, how about the one I just put in? That one's obviously locked. I'm turning it counterclockwise, that unlocks it. So it won't go down and stay down until I turn it back clockwise until it stops, then it locks. Okay, so this one I want to make sure is counterclockwise and lift it straight up to make sure the pin is released. Then turn it back. Hold on, it wasn't counterclockwise. There, now it's out. Now I'm going to turn it, while it's out, fully clockwise again until it stops. Then carefully align the pin with the hole. Yeah, it just isn't clicking, but it's in there. Next, it doesn't matter which of the other two corners you start with. There's one. Some difficulty with this side for some reason. So, why? Why is this happening to me on a live video? Come on. There it goes. I heard it. Okay, let's take it out and inspect it. Oh, they've used zip ties. You see the zip ties? They have zip tied that motherboard. I hate it when they do that. It's completely unnecessary. Where's it going to go in the box? Is it going to leave? Where's my wire? These are my angled or flush cutters. Love these. These are from Italy. Well schooled. One in each corner. Okay. So, you know, when you're dealing with other manufacturers, as I'm accustomed to, I'm not suggesting what ASRock is doing is wrong. I'm just not accustomed to that packing process, and I think it's unnecessary. One of those would have been fine, one in each corner, but to put 4 in is over the top ridiculous. Now, let's just check the back. We'll make sure these little plastic alligator mouths that are popping out do have the posts sticking through them, and that we're making full contact with the CPU. It looks pretty good to me. And now I can pick up the board safely by the heatsink, and we can grab a little, ironically, we can get a fresh nylon zip tie. We can just tie up this excess here, because that'll be easier to do while it's out of the box. Now, opening this up, we'll open up every memory retention area here and look at right down here. Do you see what it says? If we're only going to use 2 DDR5 modules, it wants us to use A2 and B2. Oh, it's that ASUS logic. Do you use A1 and B1? No. Do you use A1 and A2? No. Do you use B1 and B2? No. So then you use B1 and A1. No. You use A2 and B2. Yeah, but which ones do I use? I'm talking about the first. It says first. Do B2 and A2 first. So this is A1, this is A2, this is B1, this is B2. So it wants us to do the one closest to the edge of the board here, and then skip one, and we're the third one in or the second one in, depending on which way you're looking at it. So we're going to be on these 2 slots. Will it work other ways? Yes, it will. Will it work as fast or as reliably? Try it, let me know. I'm sure they didn't just write that down because they thought it was funny to watch people do things that didn't matter. Whether or not it affects you, I don't know. I don't know. Could affect one person and not affect another. Could affect one person who doesn't even know they're being affected by it. And so ignorance is bliss, and they're totally happy and say, that was stupid, I didn't have to do that. Then you go, well, no, that's not what's stupid. You just don't realize you've bottlenecked your system. Okay, so whatever. This is the easier one to get into first. So we'll just pop that in there. Should I take a minute and look at this RAM that I've never used before? I like that it matches the color of the board. And when you see, oh wait, this won't matter. The case Mitch and I are going to work on is totally cool. I got to make sure everything's black on it. But it's not going to be this board because I've got to use a micro ATX on that. So never mind what I was about to say. Here's our specs on the back of the RAM. Hold on. Okay, so orient that the proper direction. Pop that in. Corners, corner, and then we'll lift these up out of the way. We've got some plastic on the heat sinks here. We want to take that off, and over here as well. So people leave this on. It's not intended to be left on. The manufacturer wants you to remove this. It can impede not only the heat, the cooling, it could also diffuse the brightness or discoloration of the RGB below it, which, you know, God forbid. They don't make it easy to remove it. This will yellow in time, and it'll probably bubble, and it'll get easier to peel. And if you don't peel it, then the person you sell it to in a few years, when you get rid of it, will really appreciate that they can peel it and have it look just like brand new. I can see the bubble right there. I know I can peel that. They should have given us a little pull thingy like they did on the bottom of the thermal tape. There it is. There it is. I'm getting it. And then on the I/O shield, they did give us a little pull. See this blue tape right here? Let's grab that and pull it. Hey, it's got a built-in I/O shield. I'm all about that. I like that. So it's not all complaints. Mostly, but not all. All right, let me clear some of these boxes out of the way. Let's fire this bad boy up and run some SSD testing on it. Huh? I don't need to leave it in the foam. Let's get rid of the foam. And get rid of these boxes over here. What else do we have to get rid of? Oh, all these zip ties. Just shove all this over. Keep the documentation there. Okay, I'm going to grab a power supply and a power switch, and we'll smoke test this bad boy. What do you say? God, I don't have anything underneath this. It's just some scratches on the counter. Let's see, 500 watts ought to do it. Pretty low, but without a GPU, without a discrete GPU, we should be. Oh wait, this needs 2 8-pins. I'm not going to have 2 8-pins on here. I don't know if those are needed. Are both of those needed? Let's assume they are. I think I have that here. What sort of madman just has power supplies laying around? He just reached down and 2 seconds later pulled up another one. Hey, I do this for a living. I got a lot of parts. You never know what you're going to need day to day. It's like operating an emergency room. You better have a little bit of everything. You don't know what's rolling in the emergency room door. Be ready for anything. Let's see, that's a graphics card power. What's this right here? CPU power. Got 2 of them. It's going to go there. It's going to go there. Turn it the right way, Carrie. Okay, now we need a power switch. Let's grab this super cheap one right here. This will do the job. I get these on Amazon for, I don't know, a dozen for $5 or something. But that, I'm assuming it's going to go right there like it does on every other motherboard I've ever worked on. And we got RAM, storage, CPU, cooler's plugged in. I just got to populate this end of it. So I need a keyboard and a mouse. So you know me, I'm going to grab this little jelly comb or Cinda wireless keyboard mouse combo, plug my single USB port anywhere in here. Wow, we got a lot of I/O back here. Look at all that. We'll use one of the slower USB ports because I'm not going to type any faster. And if you move a little to the right, I'm going to plug the power cable in right here. And I'm going to plug HDMI into the capture card right there. Yeah, see, we've got antenna holes here. So I guess there's a way to take this piece off of here, put a little M.2 Wi-Fi card, run the thin little wires into some little standoff points, and then you can screw antennas on the back of it. I would just add a darn Wi-Fi card to it and be done with it, or just slap a USB Wi-Fi adapter on it if that's what you needed. I wouldn't use one of those laptop adapters. They're just, the wires are a bit spindly. Now this is a 2.5 gig Ethernet port, so we may not have drivers for this right out of the gate, but we did leave Windows 11 installed on there from yesterday on the other board, so they might share some of the same chipset drivers, but they're not going to share the same network card driver, and I'm going to suspect we're not going to have any network access until we load that driver, and we're going to need to get on the network to download the network driver. Okay. All right, so I'm going to flip the switch here. Oh, look, the RGB is going off now that I've flipped the power on to the power supply, but we've not turned it on. And I can go over to, go ahead, stay where you are. Close-up camera, HDMI inputs right here. Tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take the close-up camera and I'm gonna make it a little smaller so we can watch both at the same time. You wanna hit the button? See if you can hold the camera and hit the button at the same time. You did it. Okay, we got a red light on here. Fan is spinning. Now we need to give our system a good 90 seconds to recognize and train our RAM and CPU and give us a power on screen. In theory, it should go ahead and boot up right into Windows 11 on this Gen 5 SSD. And if I plugged it in the right place, when we run the benchmark on it, we should see 10,000 megabytes per second. There's our power on self-test. I don't think we need close-up camera anymore, so we can go full screen on the desktop. You're good, you're clear. Thank you, camera girl. Good job. As always, it does change a little device manager thing there. When it was coming up, it found some devices. There's our desktop that we loaded yesterday. And let me go full screen here. Now, remember I showed you this was activated yesterday without us putting an activation key? Well, if I check it right now, it's not going to be activated anymore because we've changed the motherboard. And so if it were to activate with this motherboard, then it would deactivate the other one. So when you've got one license key, you can use it one place or the other. And in most cases on these OEM keys, you cannot move them at all. Now, I'm going to go over to this mouse over here, and we're going to bring up Crystal Dismark. Now, I haven't read the directions. I don't know that I plugged this in correctly, but I'm assuming I did. And you know how well that went for me yesterday, right? But you know what? It's okay. Can't win them all the time. Can't get it right 100% of the time. If I can get around 70, 80%, I'm good. So let's see what we get. I want to see 10,000. Do I have 10,000? I have 10,000! Da-da-da-da! Did I read the directions? No. Why? Because I didn't need to. It's a waste of time. But no, for me, okay, just for me. You should read the directions. Don't do what I do. You should definitely read the directions. All right. Congratulations. We can now load everything 1 second faster than the Generation 4 and the cheaper motherboard, the cheaper everything. Oh, it's a battle hard fought. Now, you like it? And here's the thing, on Gen 5, 10,000 is actually rather slow. I can't see any reason why we're not doubling Gen 4. If Gen 4 is getting 7,000, then Gen 5 should hit 14. But when Gen 4 first came out, if you remember, they were only getting about 5,000. It wasn't until about a year later we started seeing the 6s and 7s. So give this a year and we'll probably see 12 to 14 on this, on future generations of Gen 5 NVMe SSDs. Okay, so there we go. Florin Gura says we can all sleep tonight. Yeah, especially me. Especially me. And sure, it's coming at the expense of cutting our PCI Express slot in half at 8x instead of 16x. But hey, I wanted to show you this is what you're going to get. I don't want you to figure this out the hard way. I'm going to figure it out the hard way so you don't have to. And I'll spend the money from the channel, that's from contributions and from sponsors and from YouTube themselves, to pay for this crap that I don't want, to show you why you shouldn't want it either. Or maybe you're special and you have some very special needs where this is solving a problem for you, in which case, start doling out the cash. Your fantasy has come true. Your problems are solved just with a little bit of money. For the rest of us, probably a waste of money. Duncan, he says, Gen 4 is fine for me. Hey, Gen 3 is fine. Come on. So between Gen 4 and Gen 3, you're saving another 1 second. So 2 seconds between the two of them. Right? For every 15 seconds or 14 seconds of load time, you're shaving about 1 second for every 14 seconds from each generation. So if you look at the video links I posted, oh, look at the write speed. How can the write speed be faster than the read? 10,193. Now, we did see faster read and write speeds when I enabled an NVMe RAID 0 array on Threadripper. We did see that, but that was a nightmare to maintain it. David Graham says video editing. Not necessarily. It depends on the video editor you use. Some video editors excel much, much faster based on which GPU you're using, others on which CPU you're using, and others still on your storage. And then if it's a real high-end professional video editing software kit, you probably want the best of everything, the best and most fastest storage processor, maximum amount of RAM, the most expensive video card, not a gaming graphics card, but rather a Quattro or professional level studio graphics card. But we're not making videos for people like that. I can tell you with Cyberlink Power Director, the graphics card makes a big difference in the rendering times, but the storage makes zero difference. I mean, zero difference going from Gen 3, Gen 4, or Gen 5. My rendering times using the latest Cyberlink Power Director, rendering out 4K videos that are 3 hours long, doesn't change by any meaningful amount. But that's why I use Cyberlink Power Director. Now, if you want to go and get DaVinci Resolve, and I mean, that'll bring any computer to its knees. You can buy a $20,000 computer and you'll still be waiting on DaVinci Resolve to load. Just to load, it'll take a while. So if that's what you're into, you got deeper pockets than me. All right, looks like our test is done. There's our final numbers. With regards to activation status, it should no longer be activated because the motherboard changed. So let's go to, that's coming up. Let's go to settings. Let's go to about. Now we can verify we've got our 13th gen Core i5 13500. It's idling at 2.5 gigahertz, but it will crank to 4.8. And of course, this is the Windows we installed yesterday. If we want to see our activation status, we would just type in the word activate up here. Just start typing it and suggestions come up, and I want to see if Windows is activated. And it is not active anymore. But you change the motherboard. You take the license plate off of your car and put it onto another car. That car is no longer registered. You understand? You cannot take the license plate off of your car and indiscriminately put it onto another car, or you find yourself pulled over with handcuffs on. So in much the same way, software licensing is enforced. And in this case, it is tied to the motherboard. OEM licenses, and those are like the ones we sell at VIP CDK deals at 90% less than the cost of retail licenses. So, you want to spend 90% more, don't let me get in your way. Okay, so that's what we're looking at with regards to, and I don't think this cooler is going to do very good. This is just a stock Intel cooler. It's not a big deal, and for everyday use, it's probably just fine. Should I screenshot this? Let's see, function, alt, print screen. We'll go to paint. And we'll take that box and make it smaller. And then Control V, file, save as JPG file. And we're going to put it on the desktop. We're going to call it Gen5 SSD.jpg. Okay, so we've got that. And you can write down here, we could put Corsair MP700 Gen5. Right, if we wanted to do that and then take a screenshot of it. I don't use that. There's a little notepad area. A lot of people don't know that's there. Okay, so, okay, that's done. Utilities. Let's Prime 95 this bad boy and see how long it takes till it catches fire. Fire! Yeah. Let's see. Davis, get out of here. Okay, so we're going to go to PC testing. We're going to grab one of these. Been using this one lately. Grab that one. And I always use Prime 95 26.6. Start this up. Yes. Sensors only. Start. Oh, we got a new version. I'll deal with that later. Not important. Let's see. Okay, CPU core temperature. So much information on here. Which do I want to highlight? Frequency, temperature. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to start Prime 95 up here. We're going to torture the hell out of this, which is no way anybody uses their computer. This is a very unrealistic test. And even if you were to run it more than 5 minutes, it's ridiculous. I want to go ahead and run it on all 20 threads. And we run all the default values. Click OK. I'm going to go over to my smartphone and I'm going to start my timer. Play along at home if you'd like. Sorry, not the timer, the stopwatch. I already hear the fan cranking up. And let's see what's been going on over here. Let's hide some of these windows. Bring some of the other windows up that has information I want to see. Maybe I can make this a little bit longer. Where is our frequency at? Somewhere in here, we should be seeing the frequency of the cores. Remember, we have more efficiency cores than performance cores. I don't know where it's showing. See voltages, voltages, voltages. I see temperatures. I see clocks. Okay, well, there's clocks. Closer. See temperatures and see wattage. Do not see frequency any. Oh, wait. What's up here? What's this? Got some clocks going on here. Not showing me the individual clocks of the cores. Or am I just scrolling through this so quickly? I just think that should be in my face. 4 clocks. Yeah, 4.798. That's 4.8 all day long. That's been our maximum we've hit. That's what it's supposed to do. Or temperature has already hit 76, is that? That's okay. We're off to a good start. It's actually doing better than I thought it would do. Who knows? Will it run the length of the test? It's only been 2 minutes. We'll find out. Al Hedge says, here's a quick tip for me. For electrical fires, a CO2 fire extinguisher should be used. I just use a big box of baking soda. He says there's an arrow to the left. Oh, like that guy in that movie who did that thing? Yeah, there's only about 17 arrows to the left, but I think he's referring to this one. Oh, there they are. Thank you. The arrow to the left, or the so there's our individual performance and efficiency cores listed in what they're doing. I don't know why that's not automatically expanded, but there you have it. Michael Jones says the temps are impressive for a stock cooler. Well, just wait. We've only been 3 minutes. Let's keep an eye on those temps. If they were to hit 85, bring it to my attention, please. 85 is okay. 95 is okay. 100 is not okay. That 100 means it'll be throttling. But I get uncomfortable anything over 85. So, you know, when I'm selling something to a customer, I don't want to sell something to a customer that can go hotter than 85. Because I don't want to have to come back and I don't want the customer to have to call. For in-house use, I don't care, right? For me, for studio use, I don't care. But when I'm held accountable to the customer, I do care. Trevor Dunn says that cooler is very good if you need a cheap cooler. I mean, it looks good. I like it. It doesn't look so sort of bland the way Intel coolers always looked, but then I've never been much to care for how a stupid cooler looks, okay? Because in my line of work, the only person that's going to look at it is the tech. Customers are never going to see it. It doesn't hurt anything that it looks good, but it's not necessarily performing good because it looks good. I'd rather it performed well than it looked good. And if it can do both, well, that's fine. It didn't cost me any extra. It came with the CPU. Diesel Doctor says, Carrie, kudos to you. Watching your videos gave me the ability to build my own computer. Thanks so much. Hey, that's awesome. You're going to want to build more, I can assure you. Lauren wants to know if an i9 10900K on liquid cooling at 90 degrees is safe. Never had a problem. You're fine at 90. If that's your peak and you're not going any hotter than that. If I were selling you that computer, well, let me rephrase. What are you doing to see 90 degrees Celsius? What are you using the computer for to hit 90 degrees Celsius? Answer me that question before I answer yours. Quadfeed said it's power limited right now, so it won't get any hotter. You better hope it's power limited. If you just throw power at it, of course it's going to get hotter. You'll burn it up. You're going to have the whole AMD, X670 chipset situation happening again. Overclockers going to be overclockers. This chip and most chips modern day overclock themselves safely and reliably. If you think you can do better than that and you want to spend your time and your money pursuing some minor megahertz when you're getting gigahertz, so now, oh, I got 7% more. I only had to spend $700 and waste 3 weeks of my time to get it stable and burned up 2 CPUs. I highly recommend you leave the power alone unless you're that kind of person that enjoys that kind of torture. I personally am not a fan, no pun intended, of cranking up power delivery beyond engineering specifications. But that's just me, right? I'm just a guy in business, trying to stay in business, making sure my customers are happy. Never had a customer say to me, hey, could you turn the power up on this? My frequency is about 7% too low. Never happened in my entire career. What they have called and said is this computer's crashing all the time. The computer you sold me is a piece of junk. You better replace this computer right now, or I swear to you, I'm going to sue you, right? So there's, it hasn't happened very often, but it only has to happen once to motivate me to ensure it never happens again. Now, if we look at where we're at, it's been 7 minutes and our highest temp reached so far is 76. That is impressive, very impressive. And we are hitting 4.8 on every single performance core. All 6 of them are hitting 4.8. That is awesome. Like I said, this is faster than previous generation i7s, not from not so far back. Even though it's labeled as an i5, depending on your perspective, if you saw this i5 4 years ago, oh, I just went to sleep. Hold on, let me wiggle the mouse. If you saw this i5 4 years ago, you'd say that's an i9 based on what we were calling chips 4 years ago. Just something to think about. Let me change the power plan on this because I don't want that going to sleep anymore. Now let's say never. And I don't know, about 3 hours. That ought to, oops. Oh, I just hit cancel. I'm such an idiot. Hours on the video and never on the sleep. This is how I configure all computers that I'm broadcasting with, and all customer computers. They can set the monitor off after any period of time they prefer. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, I don't care. But I need the computer left on at night. It cannot be asleep. I need to be able to access it to do updates and maintenance after business hours. And I have to tell you, leaving the computer on 24/7 has really caused a dent in my repair business. Almost every single customer who I have told to leave their computer on 24/7 has never, ever called me with a repair since I gave them that instruction, with maybe 2 exceptions. Yeah, I'd say 2 exceptions. And when did I start doing that? 6 years ago. So, you take from that what you will. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just telling you what I do and why I do it and how I advise my clients. At the end of the day, the clients do what they want to do. Their systems go down, I'm happy to bill them to fix them. If they don't want them to go down, they should follow what I suggest. After all, there's a reason why they hired me. They hired me and don't want to listen to me. Sounds like I'm no longer needed over there. And if they still want to keep me and not listen to me, that's fine. The billing rate's still the same. Sarge Tech says that i5 is alive. Somebody wants me to fix the date. What happens with the date is these boards are built in, either Taiwan, China, somewhere in that part of the world, and it's set to their time zone. So they're about 12 hours ahead of us. Now, with me leaving the auto location settings on, that clock is going to fix itself if we leave it alone. But if you have some mental discouragement in regards to your ability to discern one clock from another, if that will set your peace, if your mental distress, then all you have to do is right click on it, adjust the date and time settings. This will happen on its own. Turn it off. Oh, sorry, up here. Turn it off, turn it back on again. And that forces it to go and pull the time and date from the server. And now it's accurate. Now, I'm in Arizona, we don't honor daylight saving. So whether or not I leave this on or off shouldn't make a difference. But if I leave it off, it doesn't make a difference. I was thinking when I hit that, I thought I was up here. Anyway, anybody else have anything else? Any other tech minutia that upsets them that you want me to address live on the video in front of 400 people? Is the cooler noisy? I don't know what you think is noisy. The cooler ramps up and ramps down depending on what Prime 95 is asking it to do, whether it's engaging. So Intel has something called the thread director, and the thread director assigns the cores according to what job is being assigned from the software. And the thread director says, you get this, you get that. And when the performance cores kick in and turbo up, then the fans have to get hotter. The CPU gets hotter because of that. The power draw goes up, the frequency goes up, the calculations start performing much more complex tasks. This generates more heat. That means the fan has to spin faster. If you don't like the noise, don't ask your computer to do that level of computational work. You won't have that problem. You could also put in earplugs. You could also buy a more expensive cooler. This is a free cooler that comes with the CPU. Have reasonable expectations of the at no additional cost cooler that you're getting. If it's not good enough for you, there are plenty of third parties that will happily take your money if that's an issue. You can also buy soundproof cases. We're dealing with a motherboard fully exposed on a tabletop, which is not the way you should be running it. So if you put a graphics card in here, you can forget anything you think is loud anymore, because the graphics card fans on the higher end 20, 30, and 40 series graphics cards for NVIDIA, those cards, when you're cranking them up, they're going to absolutely sound, there's nothing you can do about it. They're going to sound 10 times louder than any CPU fan you've ever heard. If you don't like that, then don't use that kind of equipment, or don't use it in that way. If we're not pushing the CPU hard, if we're at the desktop, we're browsing the web, then that CPU fan is whisper quiet. But you start making it work, it's like, can I pass somebody on the freeway putting my foot all the way to the floor on my internal combustion engine and have it do it quietly? Well, I guarantee you, no matter what you drive, when you put the car into, when you drop gears and you rev the engine up, it gets louder. That's how it works. If you don't like that noise, don't drive that way. I don't know what else to tell you. Certainly mufflers and things can help, so can earplugs and the stereo. But I am a bit surprised, because I grew up with computers and never, ever did anybody complain about fan noise. If you go all the way back before the days I was around to the ENIAC computer, they used to use relays that click on and off instead of modern silicon, which is perfectly silent. So if you walked into a computer room with relays, that's how computers worked. They sounded like a tap dancer on speed. Clack, 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 clack. Right? They used vacuum tubes and relays. Oh my gosh, you don't even know what noise is. You need to go to a computer history museum And then you can really appreciate how quiet today's computers are. Not to mention how small they are. But as long as you're going to want power, you're going to get heat. If you don't want the heat because you don't want the fan, then you don't want that much power. So get yourself an i3, get yourself something that doesn't have that much power, or spend more money on cooling, or spend more money on a case that's insulated, or move the computer away from where you're sitting, or, I mean, you know, turn up the stereo. Come on. So the fan is going to ramp up and down depending on how much power is being drawn from the CPU at any given task. Under normal usage scenario, the average customer, the average end user, will hear that fan crank up occasionally. But unless you're doing something excessively draining to the CPU, excessively, what's the word? Like you're exercising the heck out of it, like what we're doing right now, which is very unrealistic. I don't know anybody that would use a computer like this in real life for a legitimate reason for this period of time. So normally the sound, if it gets loud, it goes away rather rapidly, is what I'm trying to tell you. It's temporary. And being in a case, even not an insulated case, just putting it in a case may be enough to muffle it. And then, of course, how far away you're sitting from that, you know, if it's right up against your ear, you know, and then how sensitive your ears are. So I cannot tell you if something is noisy. I don't know how to answer that question. And that's why.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. By the way, you're welcome. Anybody watch Nick Burns? Your company's computer guy. He's gonna fix your computer, and then he's gonna make fun of you. He's Nick Burns, your company's computer guy. Oh, and by the way, you're welcome. Do I do that okay? Don't say that. So this computer does all these amazing things at this amazing price, and it's breaking all these records in price, availability, reliability, and performance. But does it come in red? Get out. I wanted brown. All of you out. How long have I been running this test? I've not been paying attention. 17 minutes. And our maximum temp has, remember, stock cooler, $200 processor, $209. Never mind, I paid $247. Don't worry, I'm going to get a refund. $209 with the cooler included. A Mugen 5 cooler is on sale at Amazon for $59.99 for the black edition. It's normally $65.99. That's more than a quarter of the cost of the CPU and cooler combined. And it will be cooler. It will be quieter, rather, and cooler. But I'm not going to spend that. I don't need to. It's fine. But you can spend it. It's your money. I'm not seeing that CPU temp go up at all. It still looks 76, appears to be our maximum, but Uncle Kerry is going to walk up to the monitor with his glasses on and get 2 inches away from it so I can read it. And I'm going to let my mouth hang open a little bit. Yeah, that's a 76. I can't tell if it's 78 from back there. You know, the 6 and the 8, it's hard to sell. It's just a little hole, little gap between the 6 and the 8. Slight little pixel variation in the curvature of the numbers. Get up close. Who said that? I can see fine. All right, let's take a look here. What's going on? Luke Greenia says, I think Gary needs a sugar reduction program. Yeah, you know, there is a lot of sugar in these Gatorades. A lot. I'm not sure this was a great move from Coca-Cola, to be honest. Michael Jones says the CPU's been in the mid-60s for a long time. Patrick says, with time and gas money involved, is sending the item back worth it? Well, given that I live in Phoenix and there's a UPS store a block south of me and 2 blocks north of me, literally 2 blocks, And that's just the two closest ones. I could walk there. They're not very busy unless it's Christmas time. And all I have to do, I typically, I'll drive over there because I'm too lazy to walk. And they recognize me. They know who I am. Hey, how's the mini PCs going, Carrie? And I say, sending some back. I hand them the box, not the packaging, not the Amazon packaging. I hand him the product box. And I show him the QR code that I have ready on my phone. He or she scans the QR code, says, would you like a receipt? I say, yes, please, just in case I have to verify to Amazon. I've never had to, but OCD. And then he stares at the printer, which somehow makes it print in about 45 seconds. And then he hands it to me and says, have a great day. And I say, thank you, you too. Now, since I have 30 days to return things, even though it's that easy and that convenient, sometimes I wait till I have 2 or 3 or 4 things. And so I'll be like, I'll wait another week. I have one more thing I'm going to return here. Like I ordered a big USB, an HDMI cable for Camera Girl to give her more slack. Yeah, but the cable's too thick. It gave me the length I needed, but now it's inflexible. So I didn't even take that out of the package. So guess what? Filed a return for that as well. It's only $17. But hey, I got to go back for the CPU, which is $247. And the guy at the UPS store is going to scan the one QR code, print me my receipt. Actually, no, I'll take it back. He'll scan the QR code and make sure it matches the box I hand him. Then I say, I got this other package with the cable. And I'll pull up my phone and show him the QR code. He'll scan that. And then he says, do you want a receipt? I say, and he puts both items or as many items all on one receipt. Then I say, see you next time, buddy. It is not a problem. And in many items, by the time I drive home and put the car in the driveway, I get a notice from Amazon that the amount's been credited, that they received the tracking information right from the UPS computer, so they know it's on its way, and my credit has been applied, and then I go shopping. And buy more stuff so I can make more content for you guys. You're welcome. By the way, you're welcome.
Snow cone syrup.
Snow cone syrup. Sugar-free snow cone syrup. Got to take care of the Camera Girl. She runs hot. All right, we're at 22 minutes, which is 2 minutes too long, but this is a stock cooler. Everything's at stock, and this is not a K processor. There's no overclocking this. Anyway, so those are really, really much better numbers than I was expecting. I would be very happy to send something like this to a client and let them do their, like the lawyer's office. I think they would love this. What's that? Well, they're not going to see the board. It's going to go to a Corsair 200R case. They're never going to see anything. But it does look good. The black RAM with the black cooler on the black board, and the fact it's got a all that RGB is stupid. Nobody's going to see that. It's just dumb. All right, let me turn off Prime 95, and you'll watch these temperatures. Watch this. Where's my mouse? Watch this temperature right here when I turn off Prime 95. Watch how fast this chip cools. Any CPU cools down. And of course, it'll cool down faster with an air cooler, because a liquid cooler, the liquid takes longer to cool down. So liquid coolers aren't all just better all the way around. In some cases, they hold heat longer. Okay, so I hit test and then stop, and it's going to say, are you sure? Yes, I want to stop all the workers. And as soon as I stop the workers, within seconds, that 65-degree temp over here, watch this fall. Ready? Go. And it falls by 50% usually. I mean, our coolest was what? 28, is that? Look, we've already dropped 20 degrees Celsius in just that very few seconds, and it's still. Now, if this was a liquid cooler, this would take a little longer and over a longer period of time to get that liquid cooled down. Or if you shut the computer off, that liquid just stays hot. It just sits there, hot. So sure would be nice if liquid coolers would continue to run for a couple of minutes, just like when you turn a car off, you might hear the fan running after the engine's off. But apparently enthusiasts haven't gotten wind of this yet and are outraged. But be careful, once they have this information, they're going to be really upset when they realize. Okay, I'm just teasing. Let's go back to camera 1. Oh, you know what else I should do? Let me go back here for a second and let's do a reboot. I want to see how long this thing takes to boot up. So we'll close that out. Going over here, over to here. This is super tiny for me to see, but I think that first one is restart. Yeah. And let's see what our restart time is. Anybody paying attention to the clock? Ready, set, go. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It's the same as it is on Gen 3 and Gen 4. It's exactly the same. Okay, what if we turn XMP on? I mean, this is 6,000 RAM, right? So since I'm a glutton for punishment today, I'm going to turn on a thing that only enthusiasts care about, and no single user has ever asked me about ever in the history of me doing this, unless I'm on YouTube. I only hear these questions on YouTube and nowhere in real life. So since I'm on YouTube, let's appease the masses and their technical minutia concerns, because apparently they're using their computers in a way no customer of mine ever has. This is totally worth it, according to them. Okay, so let's take a look at our BIOS. There could be a new BIOS update too. I didn't even think to look, to be honest. Off my game today. It is a Sunday. I shouldn't even be doing this today. I have a problem. Processor speed, total memory is there, 5200. Yep. That's why I was happy with the 5400, because that was even more than we used. Load Intel base power limit. No, I don't care about that. See where you turn on storage configuration. VMD mission support. Instant flash, what does that do? Please suspend BitLocker. The data will stay encrypted. Okay, I don't have BitLocker. What is it doing? I don't know what it's doing. No image file detected. Fantastic tuning. That's an auto tuner. Something about a liquid cooler type. Got air cooling on. There's probably an advanced mode in here somewhere. I'm not familiar with ASRock's BIOSes, but I'm used to like XMP being an option here. So maybe they moved it, or I can turn the RGB off here. Oh, there's advanced up there. Dual channel memory. We're on BIOS, what, 3.08? So I'd have to look up what the latest is. Overclock, CPU DRAM configuration. Oops. It's in here. DRAM frequency is 6,000. 6,000. Oh, holy cow. Didn't know it was going to go down that far. Oh, this ought to piss it off. Exit. Save and exit. CPU coolers changed to air. That. DRAM frequency. Yeah. Now, when I did this on my ASRock, my post time took 3 times longer than normal, as it sat there every single time I had to start the system. It would retrain the memory, and it just was torture having XMP on. But, you know, let's see if they work any differently now. Let's see if it even turns back on. It's thinking about it. It's trying. Oh, the red light went off and went back on again. Oh, here we go. Something's happening. Oh, it's going to boot faster now. So then the question is, let's see, did I leave my utilities flash drive in there? So the drivers from yesterday. See testing. Check that out. What it says about our RAM. Alaj says, I must say the BIOS looks fantastically ugly. Yes, well, you know, because that's important, how a BIOS looks. DRAM frequency is 2992, double that, it's at 6,000. I mean, I guess I'm running it. It's 6,000. And the system feels exactly the same. I don't know what I'd have to do to see a difference. Oh, I got 4 more frames per second. 4 more frames per second. Let's cook it. Let's try this. I have an idea. This is an ASRock. What did I call this board? Riptide Z790 something PG. Oh, it's only PG. I wanted the rated X version. Yeah, but Amazon to provide an ID. Oh, it did say R. It didn't say PG. It said R. Huh. So Zane Earl or okay. Support specifications. Support BIOS. Whoa, wait a minute. Wait a minute. It says 3.08, then 4.13, then 5.01, and then 6.05. That's like a lot. What is Instant Flash? Let's click Instant Flash. What do we do? There are 3 different ways. Yeah, got it. Easy mode, yeah. Instant Flash, yeah. Instant Flash. Okay. This means I'm not reading all of this. You think I got all day to sit here and read this? You're out of your mind. Just download the file. I'll figure it out. Open the file. Extract all. Let's put it in download. Should be fine. Extract it. It's in downloads. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so I don't know how this Instant Flash works, but it looks like what they're attempting to tell me based on my, right there. This is how fast my world works for those of you who are unfamiliar with the way I work. And sometimes this doesn't work out for me, but usually it does, which is why I keep doing it. What I think it wants me to do is to go into the BIOS. So I'll hit delete until we get in there. Delete, delete, delete. Did I miss my opportunity to get in there or what's going on? Okay. Then it wants me to go down to Instant Flash and continue, and it's going to find it automatically. No, it was looking on the flash drive. It's fascinating. So what I want to know is, can I point it to where I want it to look? See the PC testing software, those directories are all coming from my flash drive. So again, without reading the directions, this just works better for me. I'm going to exit setup. We're going to go back into Windows. I'm simply going to copy that file onto my flash drive. That's not the BIOS flash drive I normally use. That's my utilities flash drive. But hey, that's where it wants to look. I don't want to learn anything more than that. If that works, then that's a different way. I've never flashed a BIOS where it just automatically looked like that before. It's clearly not looking on the C drive. It's looking on the flash drive. Okay, whatever. So I'll copy the file. We'll just go over here. This only takes a second. And we're going to take that file. Oops, I didn't mean to bring up the browser. We go to downloads. We're going to copy, not the zip. We're going to copy the extracted file. Actually, I can probably just copy the file itself. hate this. Okay, copy. I don't like this interface. Then we'll go over here, and I'm not going to change the interface to some third-party add-on. So every time I sit at a customer's desk with Windows 11, I'm struggling. I would never, ever purposely handicap myself like that. Now we're going to just repeat what I've already done. Restart, back into BIOS. And I didn't have to do all that reading. I don't mind reading. I like reading, but not when I'm live worldwide for everybody to watch me read. That's riveting video, isn't it? I don't have time for that. Or if I'm at a client's, I don't have time to sit there and read in front of the client. What are we doing? Bedtime stories? They hired me to do a job, get in and get out. You want to read about it? Do it at home. It found it. You want to update? Yes. After pressing enter, the system will automatically reboot. Please wait for a few seconds and this BIOS update will continue. Good. Here we go. You see the no signal? That means that the video card on the system is not sending a signal to our monitor. That's normal. That's what we want to see anytime the system is off. And let's see what it does. Do not power off during Intel Management Engine. Okay. All right, so as we're watching this riveting process take place, and where else you're going to find content like this at Warner Brothers, let me know if you have any questions for me. Like, how have I stayed in business with this attitude for over 30 years? Because I get stuff done, son.
You're welcome.
And by the way, oh, you're welcome. Customers don't care if you're reading your book as long as you got work done. Don't let that get in the way of you poking around on your home computer on your own time. All right. What else? How's that PG motherboard doing for you? Can you overclock on it? I'm the wrong guy to ask that. I think if you want to overclock, you shouldn't be looking at the cheapest possible board. It's like you're looking at the cheapest car on the lot and you're asking if you can race it in the quarter-mile drag strip and win. So yeah, you might be able to, but I don't know why you would. Luke Greenia says, what is it with these i5s that make it so rock solid? I don't think I've ever had a bad review on one. It's price to performance ratio, right? When you get up at the i7 and i9 level, you're getting up into enthusiast territory, money-wise, cooling-wise, and it becomes a bit impractical. If you go below that into the i3 or the N series, they're a little, what's the word? Anemic. So yeah, you paid less for it, but it feels like you need to nurse it back to health. And it's just never going to. It's just never going to be better than that. So right in the middle is your solid bang for the buck. I mean, $209 gets us a processor with 20 threads, cranking up to 4.8 gigahertz, and it includes a cooler and heatsink. What's not to like? Okay, we are rebooting. This is a hands-off, all hands-off deck situation. If you're updating a BIOS, you don't want to be messing around, touching the computer, the keyboard, the mouse. Leave it alone. Walk out of the room if you have to. Go use the bathroom. Go make yourself a cup of tea. Give it 5 minutes and it'll be done. Just leave it alone. Don't think something's wrong and therefore you have to intervene. Your intervention will almost guaranteed cause a problem that may result in you having to create an RMA and send the motherboard back to the manufacturer. And you're going to be without it for a couple of weeks simply because you couldn't wait 5 minutes. So it's already rebooting a second time. This is entirely hands off. I am not touching the keyboard. I am not touching the mouse. And believe it or not, I am not touching myself. This is hands off. Let the system do what it needs to do. If you want it to succeed, stay out of its way. You've assigned it the job. Now get out of its way and let it do the job you've asked it to do. Don't interfere with it. When it's done, it will tell you. Now, if you've waited 20 minutes and something ain't right, that's a different story, but that's likely not going to happen. Clearly has finished. It's rebooting us back into Windows now. And if I bring up CPU Z, and we pull up the motherboard information, we should see that we have that newer BIOS version. Now, what that BIOS version does for us, I have no clue. Could be some RAM competitive. Oh, look, it gives us the auto driver installer now works. I don't want that. And here's, yeah, and this is our BIOS version. Okay, super easy, barely an inconvenience, totally free, only took a couple minutes. As long as you don't pick at it, it won't heal. Stop picking at it. Sorry, is my Gen X showing? I want to delete that BIOS file because I don't need it anymore. I will never need it again. I will find that darn delete thing. Okay. Now, let me go back over to camera uno. There I am. We've now been on for 2 hours. Is it 2 hours? It's been 2 hours. Wow. Time flies. It feels like it's been 45 minutes to me. Any questions? We're afraid to ask you questions. Why? Because I give you tough love, believe in you. I know you can do this stuff. I know you can understand it. Sometimes people need a smack, and then, you know, and they're, oh, I see it. Three Stooges did it all the time. What are you afraid of? Clearly, somebody did that to him. It worked, didn't it? That's all I got to say. No, I do want to help people, and I believe you can do this. I really do. But sometimes people are like, well, before I do it, should I do this? I hate that. I hate that. Do it. Just, oh, I don't want to say that I have to pay a royalty. Try Expo settings and BIOS. Isn't Expo an AMD thing? That's not an Intel thing, is it? It's like DOCP is AMD, XMP is Intel, and I thought Expo was AMD's replacement for DOCP. I know the RAM says Expo on it, but I thought that's an AMD thing. Does Expo go both ways? I think it did. I don't think you're going to have an Expo setting on an Intel BIOS. Michael says it's a DDR5 thing. It's not Intel. Expo is Chris McGraw says Expo is DDR5 AMD memory profile. Okay, so one person says it's an AMD thing, one person says it's a DDR5 thing, and one person says it's a DDR5 AMD thing. I love the chat room. You guys hear yourself, right? Okay, Duncan, he says Expo is AMD only. All right, so I was right. I was guessing because only time I ever hear Expo discussed is with AMD motherboards. I don't hear it discussed with Intel. Therefore, I have concluded it must not be an Intel thing. Furthermore, I didn't see anything about it in the BIOS anyway, but I did notice when I showed you the RAM close-up, the RAM does say Expo on it. And I thought, oh, well, I guess if I was putting it in an AMD board, I didn't make the correlation that it was DOCP for DDR5. And I don't know why. I thought that AMD changed it, but if the RAM consortium changed it, then it would have changed for Intel. So it's got to be an AMD marketing move, like Infinity Fabric. You know, their marketing department is so creative and probably on some kind of drugs. Oh, well, we're better than Intel because we have Infinity Fabric. Yeah, Intel has that too, but they don't give it stupid names. Bob R wants to know if the Gen 5 drive is warmer than normal. I see Gigabyte advertising these giant NVMe coolers. Well, let me ask you a question, Bob R. Do you think Gigabyte cares how hot your NVMe drive is running, or do you think they want to sell you a cooler? Have you ever asked a barber if you need a haircut? Almost always the answer from the barber is going to be yes. They're in the business to sell you haircuts. If they're selling coolers, they want to sell you coolers. But whether or not you need that cooler you're going to have to decide that yourself. You don't want to ask the person selling it if what they're selling is something you need, because they're always going to say yes, aren't they? Michael says it was in the BIOS. Expo was in the BIOS that you were just in, where I set it to 6,000. Hey, you know what? Let's take another look. I'm game. Let's go to HDMI input again. And let's go to, now remember, we have a giant heatsink already on this NVMe drive. The motherboard includes it. And I would not want to change that heatsink out because, number one, it won't look good. Number two, it's going to cost money. Number three, it probably won't make any difference. And number four, it may interfere with the insertion of an external graphics card if the heatsink's too tall. So 4 reasons why not to buy an external or a third-party M.2 cooler. In most cases, probably 80% of the time, it's a waste of money. What your motherboard includes is probably why they've included it. That it's enough, probably. But at the end of the day, that's for you to decide. But most people don't need that. Let's go to the BIOS. Go to the BIOS and make the screen bigger so I can seize it. Let's see if we got an Expo setting on an Intel. Hey, first time for everything. Not working much with DDR5 here. It's only the third time I've ever used it. So bear with me here as we figure this out. So I went into advanced mode, right? And then I went under overclock tweaker and under DRAM. And you said there was an Expo setting in here somewhere. Looks like it changed it after we updated block frequency. Memory information. I don't know where you're seeing. Oh, Expo here. The Expo profile 1 is what it's reading from the RAM module. It's reading this Expo profile. So let's say load Expo. Oh, look at this. Load Expo setting. Auto or profile 1. Let's do profile 1 setting. Look at that. Oh, I'm hold on. I think I'm learning something. Oh, it stings a little. And then let's go over here to exit, save changes and exit. And this verifies we've changed our, look at that. It's very much taking that as an Expo profile on an Intel platform for all of you commenters who said otherwise. This is the first I have seen in any regard of using the term Expo and the word Intel in the same sentence. Now, whether or not that's just ASRock's interpretation or is that industry standard, I'll know if I see that on other motherboard manufacturers, if they're going to refer to it the same way. But there you go. Look at that. Fascinating. Still boots. Now, where do I check to see if I'm running XMP or Expo or whatever stupid name they want to call it? I mean, I think it's the same as it was before when I checked it. Part number. Oh, SK Hynix is the DRAM manufacturer. Look at that. SPD EXT Expo. Okay, but where do I see if I get that information? Larry says it's got the same boot time. Oh yeah, it's not going to make a difference. I mean, I'm trying to emphasize just how little difference this actually makes in real world. Some gamer's going to be looking at their frames per second and they're going to go, look, I'm getting 8 more frames per second, therefore it's worth it. I don't know any gamer that's a professional gamer that looks at their frames per second, and you can put them on an old computer with an old outdated graphic card and they will still kick your butt in the game. But you can keep looking at your numbers all day long. If that makes you feel better, that's it. You're just playing a different game. That's all. And that's fine. To me, we never went to the arcade and wondered how many frames per second we were getting on Galaga. So I just saying. Now, if I go to, what's the utility? Memtest 86 might be what I want to use here. Let me pull this flash drive and let's grab the Memtest 86 flash drive. And then I'm going to step around the table, plug this in. Didn't want to waste a USB 3 port, but you know what? That's fine. Doesn't matter. And then let's boot to that. So I should be able to just instruct Windows to reboot to that on its own. Let's go here to the control, to the settings rather. Keep changing the words. Windows Update. Let's go to Advanced Options. Recovery. Advanced Startup. Start now. And then we should get the option to start from the flash drive instead of from the internal storage. Just a minute. We wait for that to start up. There we go. We should get something here in just a second. Use a device. And partition 1, that's what I want. Now that should automatically start the Memtest software, which is free. You can download. I've got a video that shows you how to make this. Wouldn't hurt you to test your own memory, even if you don't think anything's wrong. And this might give us the RAM information I'm looking for. Here we go. So that's starting to load. And we should have it up here in just a moment. Bob McBride wants to know if I pull additional NVMe's out of their socket when reinstalling an operating system. If I can't tell them apart, if I've got like 3 Samsung 870s and I don't know one from the other, then the safest way to do that is to pull out all of them but the one you're installing to. But if they're different capacities or different makes and models, then you should be able to tell by the make and model or capacity. If you don't know how to tell, then absolutely you should be taking all of them out except the one in case you accidentally format the wrong one. You can remove that from the equation. Now, according to this, according to Memtest 86, it appears to be running at 52, it says 5200. However, I wonder, if that's a limitation of the software, because this is a pretty old version, 9.4. Wonder if this has been updated for DDR5. So I wonder if it's telling the truth, I guess is what I'm saying. 5200. Okay, so I'm going to turn this back off, and then I'm going to start it back into Windows again, because it's not doing what I was hoping it would. Or maybe it is telling me the truth. Maybe I am only running at 5200. Or maybe there's a newer version of Memtest for DDR5, or maybe there's going to be very soon. I'm not sure. Let's get it fired back up here. I just had it off for a minute and I just powered it back on. Trevor says open Task Manager and check performance. It should tell you what speed the memory's running at. Hey, where were you 10 minutes ago? Good. Okay, we'll do that. This isn't something that I care about. It isn't something my customers ask about. This isn't anything in any way that drives my business, brings me business, or brings me repairs. So it's just not important to me. I don't really care, but I'm trying to accommodate these whimsical, weird, to me they're weird, minutia requests just for the sake of humoring you. Because in the real world, in business, Nobody talks about this stuff because it doesn't really make any difference in our productivity in my world. So, but anyway, task manager settings. Um, hmm, supposed to be in here somewhere. Speed right here. There it is. 6,000. Ah, so memtest 86 lied. So it appears that we're running at 6,000 just fine because I can't tell the system's not running any faster. It didn't boot any faster. It didn't load Windows any faster. It didn't bring up the task manager any faster. But if it makes you feel better to see those numbers, hey, listen, man, whatever medicine makes you feel good, I'll do my best to provide it to you. But I just don't see that working in real life, in the real world where people earn a living, where that actually matters. Except, and I will say this, there are a handful of very, very specialized clientele. And it's typically in drafting or in some form of rendering, maybe even video editing. But those clients, in the world of business, those clients may work for a specific business that has a bigger overall business, and that's just a part of what they do. I can tell you in my career, of all the clients I ever had, I had one client who was a photographer, and he had some very specialty equipment, mostly Apple equipment. He had some printers, the likes of which I've never seen, that could print on canvases the size of this desk. And I obviously didn't do work on that because that's a very specialized piece of equipment that I know nothing about. It's like a plotter. And then I have another client, or had another client, that did forensic level reverse engineering of things. And they had one employee that did accident reconstruction. So he would animate, where the cars are coming from the intersection and replicate the damage that was done at the speeds and the angle at which the collision occurred. And that gentleman needed to have a very specialized computer that I declined to build. When he told me what he needed, I said, I can't build that for you. And he said, why? And I said, because I can't afford to support that. So he went and bought it from a third party. I don't know anything about it. When I would do maintenance at their office, I did not touch that piece of equipment. He was on his own. And if they didn't like that, they could hire somebody else, because that's not what we agreed to when I took the job on. This wasn't somebody that was a part of the company at the time. So the company's needs changed. And sometimes companies' needs change, and you have a choice to either change your business to accommodate your customers' needs, or part ways with the customer so you can continue what you're comfortable doing. And I just made the decision that we can leave everything as we agreed to. I'm just not going to touch that. After about 4 or 5 years, that level of equipment didn't seem so intimidating to me anymore. They had a problem with it, and he asked me if I'd look at it. So for the very first time, I took the side panel off of it. OMG. There was no cable management. In fact, the cables weren't even straight. They were all tangled and interwoven and hanging and strung up on things. And there was the airflow was completely impeded. You couldn't see anything. It was like a wall of cables that went nowhere for no reason. And then when you had to get the cables out of the way, the quality of the work was terrible. There were missing screws. And once I saw that they paid, I said, what'd you pay for this? They're like $6,000. It's a specialty piece of equipment. I could have built that for 4. So this person made $2,000. It didn't even bother doing any cable management. They took no pride in the build. They didn't even use all the screws to secure the motherboard. OMG, I was kicking myself in the butt when I realized how much profit was in there, but I fixed it. But, my perspective changed for what seemed to be an intimidating computer 4 or 5 years earlier with my, experience those last 4 or 5 years and the evolution of the CPU and motherboards. That Quadro video card didn't scare me anymore. And the Xeon processor didn't scare me anymore. And in fact, the price of it and the support of it didn't scare me anymore. ECC RAM, all that stuff was no big deal. But it was a big deal to me back then, and I didn't want any part of it because I was afraid that I was going to build something I wasn't going to know how to support it. Because I didn't know how to support it, it was going to take me away from all my other clients that are going to have to wait longer because it's taking me forever to get this thing fixed because I got to figure out what I'm doing. And then this guy's going to get ticked off. It's taking so long or it's happening so often. And I just said, I don't want to ruin this relationship and, damage it, potentially ruin my reputation as being somebody who doesn't know what they're doing. So I'm going to stick to my lane, and I'm not doing that. Years later, look back at it and said, oh, I could have totally done it. I just was playing it safe. It scared me. But I've had hundreds and hundreds of customers, and never, ever, ever has a customer ever asked me about XMP or I've had a couple customers ask me about overclocking, and I shut it down real quick. I say, if you want to overclock, have at it. You'll do so without any help from me because I'm busy and I just can't spend that much time with you. I mean, unless you want to open your wallet and pay me by the hour. But even then, I can't let one customer, even if they're opening their wallet, monopolize too much of my time because that's putting all my eggs in one basket. So what happens to all the other eggs when they get tired of waiting? They go away. And then what happens to this egg when it decides it doesn't need me anymore? I leave, I got no work. Everybody's left. I've allowed them to monopolize me long enough for all my other clients to find somebody else. And now, because I went for the money in that moment, I come back out of that moment, and all the money's gone, all the opportunity's gone. So it's why I'm always spinning plates. I got to go from this client to this client, from YouTube videos to clients to sponsorship offers. It's a constant cycle around and around. So if YouTube collapses tomorrow or shuts my channel down, I have income coming in from my real business. If something happens at my real business and I can't do that work anymore, I got income coming in from the YouTube side. But it's not making me a ton of money. In fact, if I could just focus on one thing, I could probably polish it and make it fluffier on the income side of things, but I can only do so much. And that's my dilemma, So latest mem test, Blackhawk says the latest mem test is 10.4. Yeah, I need to update that. I very rarely use it these days, but I like to have it ready in case I need it. So that'll give me something to do, when I'm bored. I'll find some time for it later. Ben wants to know, was that inaccessible boot device video you made like 6 years ago? That was the machine. That's right. Good memory. That was that machine I didn't want to build. Bob R says, to be ridiculed in chat and subjected to contemptuous and dismissive language or behavior is uncalled for. Who's doing that? Somebody being rude in the chat room? Bob says, if we ask questions, we should not be treated like you treat some people. Oh, I didn't mean to treat you in any way. That's about me? So I encourage people to ask questions. But what I don't like, I'll tell you what I don't like, are people who think they're either doing me a favor, asking me a question. Like sometimes there's a disconnect. If I say, do you have any questions? I'm offering to help you. And if you're like, well, you could tie my shoe. I'm not going to tie your shoe. You can tie your own shoe. Well, you asked if you could help me. Can you not tie your shoe and you need somebody to tie it for you? So when I'm asking, do you have any questions? I am sincerely offering to help you. So if you're asking a question that's enthusiast-based, that has no real-world practicality, I want you to know that. Or I want you to take a moment to explain to me why that's important for you to know. You see, as a consultant, my job and maybe this is where the disconnect is. And I appreciate you, Bob. I don't mean any disrespect whatsoever. However, and this is important, I have to understand what your goal is. So in other words, if you say, does this road go to the end and to the left? I am not going to answer you without understanding where it is you're trying to end up. Where are you going? Now, if you tell me where you're going, I may completely give you different directions. I might say, you don't want to go that way and to the left. That's not how you're going to get there. So I've learned this the very hard way, where customers constantly lead me down paths they don't want to be down, to go somewhere that has no direction in that way, and it's wasting both of our times. So for me to really, when I say help, if I truly mean to help you, and what I'm trying to do is I'm helping you to get to your goal. So if you're just asking me the path you think you're getting to your goal, but you won't share with me where your goal is, then I have two options. I can ignore you, right? And that's the safe thing. If you go to most YouTube channels and you ask the content creator a question, you likely will not get an answer, because God forbid you give somebody an answer they don't like. God forbid they misinterpret what you're saying or take it in a negative way. Now you're going to find yourself standing for 20 minutes in front of the camera defending yourself that all you were trying to do was help them. And because you tried to do something nice, they're going to turn you into a bad guy. So clearly there's a miscommunication about what I'm trying to achieve. I'm not asking for random questions to answer. I'm trying to help people solve problems. So if I ask you if you have a question and you say, for example, does the M.2 drive run hot? So why are you asking the question? So then this thing is, well, Gigabyte says they sell a cooler. Yes, but Gigabyte sells coolers. So when I ran the test yesterday, you were here yesterday, right? When I ran the test on the same drive, hold on, it wasn't this drive. It was the mini PC, the AD. Remember the AD15 mini PC I reviewed? I'm doing so many videos now. Just a couple days ago. It wasn't even, when did I do that? Friday? Was it a week ago? Was it 3 days ago? I think it was 3 days ago. I did the review of the AD15 Ace Magician. Do you remember? And I put the 8 terabyte OYN digital drive in it. Do you remember? And I ran Crystal Disk Mark on it. Do you remember? And what did it do? It showed this incredible number. And I said, holy cow, I didn't realize that little computer had a Gen4 NVMe. And look at its sale, 8,000 megabytes a second. But when we got to the write speed, what happened? When we got to the write speed, the numbers plummeted. And why did that happen? Because the drive got too hot. And that was really obvious because there was no heat sink on it at all. And the system was so shallow, we couldn't put a heat sink of any measurable difference in such a shallow area. That's never going to work. We'd have to like leave the lid off to make room for the heat sink to poke out, or cut a hole in the lid like a V8 with a snorkel and oh man, I can't find my words today. With like a supercharger on it. There's a word for it. It can't think. It sits on the intake manifold. Big thing, big belt on it, big blower. It's going to have a blower on it. Okay. So there we're clearly and obviously having a heat problem. And that heat problem is not easily solved without cutting holes to make room. So you just don't use that kind of a M.2 drive. And I'm assuming, because you've been on a lot of, you've been in the chat a lot, and you've been in, participating a lot. And I don't want to discourage that. I want you to ask questions. But you were here also when I just ran this test. And during this test, did you notice any slowdown occur? So no, the drive doesn't, at least under the same circumstances, the drive didn't require any cooling. Now, I have not taken this drive to some massive I/O. You've been here the whole time. We're sharing this experience together. So unless you think I have some information that I've done off camera and hidden from you, then I don't know any more about it than what I've shown you during this live video. So I hope that helps you understand that my intention was to say, you know, you've been here, you've seen it just like I did. Why would you think it needs a cooler? What leads you to come to that question to solve what problem did you see that needs to be fixed? And I'm confused. Like what was it you were trying to, what was the goal? And I guess that's where I'm stuck, because I'm saying, obviously, we don't need a cooler on this. It runs just fine based on everything we've done with it so far. And if that offends you, I just maybe shouldn't be answering questions anymore. If this is how it's going to go, that people are going to demonize me, turn me into a bad guy, and I can just do what all the other content creators do and just ignore the viewers, make my videos like I'm some kind of celebrity talking to the television, and then go off on my own and don't interact with anybody. Try and have a conversation with Tom Cruise. Try and have a conversation with any celebrity that takes 5 minutes. And I'm not suggesting I'm a celebrity at all, but I am suggesting that in a similar way, a lot of people try and reach out to me, people I don't know. And I'm not saying those are bad people. And I'm stopping and going out of my way to try to help them, only to feed somebody and have my hand bitten because they don't like what I served. So what would you do if you were me? You know what I mean? So what I try to understand is, why do you want to know the answer to that question unless the question is obvious? So for example, if this CPU were running hot during the Prime 95 test and you said, what cooler do you think would be beneficial to prevent that overheating from happening? We're on the same page. But if you're asking me what cooler would work better than this one, it's like, well, what's wrong with this one? What is better? I don't know what you mean by better. You mean better looking? You mean quieter? Do you mean, like, I don't know how to answer that question. And so I think this is our miscommunication. And I think the best way to handle it is calmly and to not be offended. My intention is always kind, always. And that should be your default. If you think I have said something to you that's insulting, then you should ask yourself, would he insult me? No, I would not. No. So it's called something we used to do back in the day, and it's called benefit of the doubt. I still do it. I give people the benefit of the doubt. It sure would be nice if I got it back. That's all I'm saying. But, you know, what a shame that, you know, you've been a welcome guest here and you're a supporter, and I appreciate you. And for you to not get that, for you to turn this into something nasty, you know, I might have to reevaluate whether or not I take live questions if it's going to damage pre-existing relationships with people when all I was trying to do was help. All I was trying to do was understand why the question's being asked so we can move past that. What's the bigger picture here? And if that's a prerequisite that you find unacceptable, then I can't answer the questions because I don't know how to feed you the answer you want without upsetting you. If that's how it's going to work, then the answers I offer are useless. I don't want to give you a different answer than I give somebody else because you only want to hear certain things. And at the same time, I don't want to ignore you and ignore your questions because I'm afraid if I answer your questions, you're going to get upset. And then you're going to say, well, why am I in this community? I want you to stay and I want you to participate and I want you to ask. What I don't want is for you to get offended. If we have a miscommunication, then express it as such. You don't have to be outraged. There's no reason for that. Trust me, if I offend you, you're going to know it and you won't be around long enough to respond. I'll just block you. So clearly, you've made a choice when you heard the information, and to choose that as a negative or to choose it as a positive. And for some reason, you went down the negative. I can't stop you from doing that. But I can tell you, I would never, on purpose, go after somebody for asking a question. But I cannot control how you interpret what I've said or that you understand why I've said it. But that's why we have to communicate back and forth rather than make accusations. It's never my intent to alienate anybody. Everybody's always welcome as long as they're polite. You've been polite. I'm not suggesting otherwise. But I'm afraid you've misinterpreted me. And maybe a way forward is to ask what you're assuming rather than just assuming it. You could say, Carrie, are you saying, and then follow it with all this negativity. And I can promise you, if I see it, I will gladly correct that negativity and say, no, 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 that is not at all what I meant when I said that. I don't know why. Sometimes people go down, they have two paths, positive or negative. For some reason, go to that negative one. So at least clarify that that was my intended direction before you get upset by the interpretation. Verify, do me the courtesy of verifying my intent so that we can make sure that we understand each other and we won't have these problems. It's a two-way road. I've got to understand you, you've got to understand me. And I'm not making you out to be a bad guy. I don't want to be made out to be a bad guy either. I'm doing the best I can. I got a lot of people asking me questions. And if you'd like to come up here on camera and try it sometime and show me how it's done, I'm not above learning. I'm doing it the best way I know how. I work in front of live audiences all the time. Can't see you. I can't hear your tone. I'm working at a deficit here. You can see me. I've never seen your face. You seem like a great guy. The conversations we've had have been wonderful. But it's different than, meeting me for a cup of coffee somewhere. Michael Jones wants to know if the Ryzen 58H mini PC had Gen 4 or Gen 3 NVMe. The 5800H was which one? That was the was a B-Link, wasn't it? The B-Link, the 5800H, SER5. I don't think I tested that. I think what I did is I put a 4 terabyte team group. I did not have the 8 terabyte drive at the time. I only recently acquired that. And it just so happens to be a Gen 4 drive. I bought it because it was the cheapest drive on Amazon that was 8 terabytes. It seemed to have the same controller, the same DRAM chips, and the same warranty, similar warranty. They have 3-year or 5-year. This was on the 3-year side. This company called Oyen Digital, I guess they've been in camera equipment for a long time. I've never heard of them. And I thought, hey, for $809, that's $190 or $180 cheaper than the next cheapest 8 terabyte drive. I'm gonna order it. And so I did. Turns out it was a Gen 4 drive. I didn't even realize that until after I bought it. And that wasn't why I bought it. I was just buying it to see if the computers, the mini computers, would accept 8 terabyte. Because initially, this is how short this idea was. I said, I wonder if it'll take 4 terabyte drives, because Team Group has the 4 terabyte Gen 3 drives on Amazon for $199 for 4 terabytes Gen 3. So I said, oh, I'll buy an extra one just to slap in to see if these 2 terabyte limits they're advertising are true. And a lot of cases they're not true. So then it was like, well, then if they'll take that, will they take an 8 terabyte? Well, let's see what the prices are. Are they still $1,200? 809. Hey, you do that and just use it for swapping out. And then when I got it, it says, when I ran it says Gen 4 on it, but I don't think I absorbed that. When I ran the first speed test and saw 7,000, that's when I knew it was Gen 4. And so moving forward, I'll be using that drive, but I did not use it on the 5800H. Pretty sure I didn't. Because if I did and it worked, then it's clearly Gen 4. No, that's not true. It would work at Gen 3, but it would run at half that speed. It would still work backwards compatible. And then that's how I'm going to be able to tell moving forward if these machines are Gen 3 or Gen 4, because the manufacturers have not been forthcoming with that information. I don't know why. So likely I'll go back and revisit that 5800H. One of the reasons I'm keeping a lot of those mini PCs is because I want to be able to utilize them in future projects and comparisons moving forward, or maybe even sort of a year-end review of, what are the best mini PCs of 2023. And I don't need all of them, but there's certain ones that I want to use as examples, like what I think are the best and what I think are the best middle and what I think are the best low end. So I got a bunch of little projects like that running around in my head, and maybe some revisiting of older machines that I can run the 4 and 8 terabyte test on. I kind of feel like the 4 terabyte test isn't necessary anymore. I kind of feel like if it does the 8 terabyte, then it's just a matter of running Crystal Disk Mark to see what speed it's running at. and likely you're going to have heat problems if you do that anyway, because these little mini PCs don't have much in the way of cooling those. Greenie says the Ace Magician CK with the i7 I have is nothing but rock solid so far. Good to know. Hopefully it keeps that up for a number of years without any problems. But I appreciate you reporting back, because those are the best reviews, is hearing from the actual people who use them in an everyday scenario. Starshine says, good night all, my surgery arm is hurting. Thanks for the stream, Carrie and Camera Girl. Peace out. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us, Starshine. Hope you feel better soon. Antonio says you should test those non-binary 48 gig, 96 gig memory kits with those AMD and Intel mini PCs. I don't think they make that in SODIMM, do they? I'm not aware of a 48 gig SODIMM. So the mini PCs I have that take DDR5, I only have 2. Out of all the mini PCs I've looked at, only 2 of them use DDR5. So we expect to see more DDR5 as new models are introduced in the future. However, the vast majority of them out there now are still DDR4. Rick Lake says his Ace Magician is running fine. Hey, it's all good news. I love it. Antonio said there's a bunch of RAM-hungry users with the same doubt. Well, probably a RAM-hungry user shouldn't be using a mini PC. You know, it's like you're a speed-hungry person, but you're buying a 4-cylinder EcoBox engine. It's like, you know, you're asking a piece of equipment to do something it wasn't intended to do and then getting offended or outraged when it won't do it. I would recommend that if you're that demanding of a user, that you buy equipment that is going to be on par with the way it's going to be used. And no differently than using the right tool for the right job. If you're going to insist on using the wrong tool, it doesn't mean you can't get the job done, but you might have a frustrating experience with it. I don't think many of these mini PCs are advertised to be expandable in a way that you're accustomed to in desktops, but there are a handful, and those are usually the more expensive ones. When you get into like the NAD 9 or the Minisforum Nook i7X, these units are intended to be opened and expanded and are much more expandable than your typical mini PCs. 80–90% of those mini PCs are intended to be a self-contained box. You take it home, you plug it in. And with some minimal upgradability to expand the RAM and to expand the storage, not to overclock it, not to make it go faster, but just to add a little more elbow room. That's all they're trying to do. And they're trying to do that at a price point that's attractive. So many people want that attractive price point, but they also want all the high-end stuff included. It's never going to work that way. So if you want one, you've got to pay for, you know, one design for that, and you'll be very happy. But if you try and take something that was engineered for a certain purpose and you re-engineer that into another purpose, it's possible it could work out. But I think it'd be wrong for you to expect that to work out because it isn't designed for that. I should have the NAND 9 from Minisforum coming this week, and that's a bare bones, so I have to put my own RAM and storage in it. I don't just grab the most expensive thing and slap it in there. And if I am going to grab to the limits, I'm not grabbing to the speed limits, I'm grabbing to the capacity limits. So when I put 64 gigs of RAM in any of my computers, have I ever talked about how important the speed is of the RAM? It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't really make any difference in anything I do. I've tested it. It doesn't. I don't use my computer that way, and I don't know any customers who do. My business doesn't run that way. I only hear about that from people on the internet. Then the other thing is when I'm expanding my storage. So when I went to upgrade my storage on my laptop, what did I go to? Did I go to an 8 terabyte? No, I went to a 4 terabyte. And I've got the Sabrent 4 terabyte drive in 2 of my laptops. The only reason I ever bought an 8 terabyte was for the Big Beast build. It was just for a channel exposition. And now the only reason I have a second 8 terabyte now is to just for testing. I wouldn't use that in my own personal rig. So you want things to go to extremes, but you have to buy equipment that's capable of withstanding that kind of abuse. You might get lucky with standard equipment, but it wasn't built that way. So I just think it's wrong for you to set your expectation to expect it when I don't think that's a reasonable thing to expect. But when you start opening the wallet and plunking down the big bucks for the high-end stuff, then that's far more reasonable to expect. So, you know, when you're looking at a $500 or $600 mini PC compared to a $2,700 computer, like a desktop computer, there's going to be a vast difference besides the price. It's going to be the expandability, the top performance, and that includes the ability to cool it. It also means it's going to be bigger, louder, and consume more power and cost more to run. It's like you want a fast car, but you don't want it to burn any gas. So yes, we have electric now, right? But then that reduces your range. But you want the range and you want the power. You've got to see where the problem is here. And by the way, if somebody tells me there's a bunch of RAM hungry users, they can speak up for themselves. They don't need you to speak up for them for. If they truly exist, where are they? They're in some little forum you hang out in. That's not typical of the way people use computers. That's all I'm saying. Those people aren't, none of those people you're talking to, none of these RAM hungry users have ever been my customer. And I don't think they ever would. And I'm trying to run a business, so I'm not trying to appeal to the enthusiasts. There's enough of that on the internet. I don't want to add to it. And if that's what you're looking for, you're not going to be happy here. I try to keep things pragmatic and practical based on real world interactions I have with real people who pay me real money to solve real problems. And then I try to share that with all of you so that when you have those real problems, you don't have to pay somebody like me to fix them for you. If you're beyond that level, then this channel isn't likely going to be something you're going to enjoy, because I don't do that experimental stuff that other channels do. I have a business to run and I have accountability to my customers, so I don't have the freedom to do that. Did I finally get that buggy mini PC running a few weeks back? That's Chris in the chat. No, it's dead. It's completely dead. I looked at it last night just to give it one more go, and I tried everything I could think of. It powers on. You know, the power switch works. And I've cleared the BIOS. I've left the battery disconnected for an hour and just let it sit unplugged. And yeah, it'll turn on. It will not post. It just doesn't get past it. I've looked at it with a magnifying glass to see if any of the components look shot. Everything looks great. So I don't know what happened. No idea. But they're sending me a replacement. And I think what I'm going to do with that other one, that's the EQ12 from B-Link. I'm going to disassemble it down even to the heatsink. I'm going to take the heatsink off. And we can just tear one of these apart just for fun. There's not a whole lot to them. And then I don't have to worry about breaking it because it's already broken. But you see, I can still find a way to turn it into a video. And then they're going to send me a replacement EQ12 and we'll do the review again. Morton says, I ordered the 4 terabyte using your link. Hey, thank you, Morton. It's a good drive. If you're talking about that team group, that one for 199 bucks, it's a great Great drive. I'll tell you something I did order for the channel. Speaking of 4 terabyte drives, I went ahead and ordered one of those Asus Store NVMe NASs. So maybe next week. I think I've said there's going to be 6 things next week. There's no way I can fit all 6 things in. Mitch and I building the computer, the NAD9, this NAS from Asus Store. But what I'm going to do is put 6 of those Team Group 4 terabyte drives in it. So that gives us 6, 18, 6, 12, 18, 24. Wait, they're 4 terabytes, not 6. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. So that gives us 24 gigs on a RAID 5. So that'll be about 20 gigs. I think we lose 1 drive. And it looks like a little router. And I want to compare it to boot time and performance of the regular traditional Synology. Yeah, and we'll see how it goes. So that's coming next week. Hell's Gate wants to know, did I remember correctly that larger drives merely use a larger block size rather than increasing the number of blocks when being formatted? I think you're thinking of FAT32. If you want to learn about that, there's a great YouTube channel called Dave's Garage, and he's a developer that helped develop the operating system, not the operating system, the file systems. And FAT32 had this particular block size. Now, I think in the case of NTFS, it's a 4K block size. At some point, mathematically, you're going to run out of blocks, right? I mean, you do understand that once you reach a certain capacity, if you need a certain number of blocks, you exceed the mathematical range of that particular algorithm, and then it has to be expanded. So I think the limit on NTFS is, I'd have to Google it. We're not anywhere near the limit, but you're going to have 4K blocks. The blocks don't get any bigger. They're going to stay at 4K. But back in the FAT32 days, you had a certain number of clusters. And those clusters, regardless of how big the drive was, once you exceeded a certain size, that was how many clusters you had. And then a file would only take up, let's say a small file, would take up 1 cluster and wouldn't share that cluster with anyone else. So if you have a 1K file consuming a 32K cluster, could happen. We called this slack space, and you'd lose a lot to slack space. So now your 40 megabyte hard drive is filled, even though there's only 20 megabytes of data on it. Didn't make any sense. So that's why we did partitioning, and we'd separate our data from our operating system. There's a lot of things we used to do back in the 90s. A lot of it has to do with the file system we were using and how the data was being laid down. These days with NTFS, all that's gone away. So it's all changed. But Dave's Garage would be a great source for you if you're interested in that technical information. He does a really great job of explaining his work as a retired Microsoft programming engineer and reasonings why he did the things he did. It's really fascinating stuff. Lawn Dog wants to know, Kerry, why did the manufacturers release a Gen 5 interface in pieces instead of parsing each interface? Oh, waiting till it's all ready? Because, and I can only guess, I don't know, but my guess is you've got chips ready to go, you got chipsets ready to go, you got motherboard manufacturers all through R&D and ready to roll. Everybody wants to be first, everybody wants to make the sale. If they got to wait for you, you're costing them all money. That would be my guess. It's all about money. We want to get there first, we want to get our product on the shelf now. Ready or not. I mean, this technology we use isn't ready. Cars aren't even done being developed. We're still figuring everything out as we go. We keep improving. We didn't master the light bulb before we started putting it in place. No, we keep evolving it. We've gone from incandescent to halogen and xenon into LED. Just keeps getting better, more power efficient, brighter, lasting longer, consuming less power. And this is how the human race is. We come up with something, it is nowhere near perfect, nor will it ever get to be perfect. And it likely will go obsolete and be replaced by something else before it's ever perfected. Cassette tapes could have been made a lot better. If we were still using cassette tapes for music, I bet they'd be a lot better now. 8-track tapes and CDs, laser discs, all of that stuff would have improved and gotten better, except something else replaced it. And around the wheel goes. So that would be my guess. It's just about getting there, getting the money. Ben wants to know, you built a lot of computers over the years. Out of curiosity, do you get more enjoyment building workstations or gaming PCs? I just don't build gaming PCs. People, generally speaking, do not reach out to build a gaming PC. People will either go to the store and buy a gaming PC, or they will build a gaming PC themselves. I don't like working, just generally speaking, for people who want a gaming PC. These are people who have time and money, in many cases, enough so to play games all day, and they have a question, they have questions, they're going to pick up the phone and call me for support. Now, that's not inherently a bad thing, but if a particular category of customer has a history of requiring, being more needy, let's just call it more needy, I need you more often, these things aren't working, now this isn't working, now that, there's no consistency behind what they do. With a business, you need a piece of software to run, and maybe that software gets updated once in a while. But a game, it's now I'm playing that game, and now I'm playing this game, and now this game won't load, and now that game loads, this game doesn't load. So I'm going to call you and have you help me. There's no money in it. In fact, it could put me out of business. I have built a handful of gaming PCs for individuals that I kind of vetted out and felt that, okay, they're not going to, if they call me, it's not going to be every other day. It'll be for a real problem. And that they're going to be, for the most part, solving their own issues with the game developers and the video card manufacturers and the drivers, because that's usually all on that. It's not on anything that I built. When I build machines for businesses, I just don't have that level of fallback, for lack of a better word, warranty support. So my preference is to build business machines, because businesses pay better. Anytime they call, it's billed. Home users would be second. I try to avoid a lot of home users because the same reason. They don't understand the difference in many cases between tutoring and support. How do I do this is not calling for support. It's like calling up Ford to ask them how to drive your manual transmission. And we don't do that. We don't do that. Go to your mechanic and say, tell me how to drive this manual transmission. It's not what I do. I'm here to fix is there anything wrong with the transmission? I don't know how to use it. Well, you need to talk to somebody to teach you that. I'm just a repair guy, right? So that really upsets people because, one, you're implying they're dumb. Nobody wants to be called dumb, but they are asking for tutoring, but they think they're asking for support. This doesn't happen in business. If you get a call for business, it's going to get built. So consumers, home users, they just don't typically have the money to keep having you over and keep throwing money at you every time. Businesses, they've got 100 computers, maybe even just a dozen computers, but nonetheless, it's not just one home user with one computer that calls you every 18 months on average, because that's not good either as far as any billable work goes, because I got bills that come in the other 17 months between that. So with business clients, I tend to have more regular work because things like updates always have to get done. Antivirus has to get updated. Temp files and other maintenance issues have to be done on a regular basis to every computer they've got. Backups have to be checked, performed, and verified, and in some cases picked up and taken off site in case anything happens at the building. And this never ends. Your job's never done. And so there's a level of the ability to relax a little bit and say, I've got work coming in. I don't have to constantly go day to day figuring out where I'm going to eat. And that's where you are with gamers and with home users, is you will either hear from them frequently for free. They intend to have free support or tutoring, or you don't hear from them at all for 18 months. And you get that one call, and it's not enough. And that one billable call every 18 months, you can't run a business that way unless you have hundreds of home users as customers. And, you know, what do you do when they all call at once and there's just one of you? So that's why. So overall, I would much rather build machines for businesses. It's just more steady work and less callback. Oldman 55 says that Asus store sounds like a very wild NAS. There's a couple of videos up. I got the idea from watching Serve the Home. It's one word, Serve the Home. They have a YouTube channel here that they recently did a test of both a 6 drive and a 12 drive Asus store NAS array. And I was like, ooh, I got to get one of those and do it too. So you can blame Patrick at Serve the Home for me having that idea, because it's really his idea. What else? PR says, I occasionally watch your old gaming PC build videos. You made it look so easy and entertaining. Well, back then we didn't do any RGB, did we? Right? We were just building a computer with a graphics card. It was a lot easier back then. And the graphics card weren't you know, like that big and leaning to one side. Ben says, I remember watching the Cosmos 2 video. So that was not a gaming PC. That was and still probably is, a computer used for editing video for the it's a Red Bull racing team that does the single propeller aircraft racing. So they have 4K cameras and they film the pilot going through those things in the sky. There's like barriers, obstacles, whatever they are. I hope they're not barriers. And then they play the footage back both for educational purposes and for promotional purposes. And they needed a really powerful machine to do that editing. All right, it looks like we're just about at 5 o'clock. That's going to put me at 5 hours. And we'll wrap it up. Yeah, you're agreeing? You telling me to
3 hours.
Are you? Huh?
You said 5.
5 hours? It's going to be 5 o'clock, which is going to put us at 3 hours.
Correct.
It didn't come out that way?
It didn't come out that way.
It's live. My brain was moving faster than my lips.
Yeah.
That never happens.
Never.
Christian wants to know, is the MP600 Pro a better deal? If not, which M.2 SSD is your top pick? Well, I don't like the Corsair anything. Just not a fan. So I personally use ADATA Team, Samsung, Intel, which is now SK Hynix, but I think I've only got one SK Hynix drive. And who am I forgetting? Sabrent. So my personal choice, and Western Digital. I personally prefer the Western Digital SN850X. I think that's the fastest drive for the money out there. But if I don't need the fastest, if I just want a big drive, then I want that Team Group 4 terabyte Gen 3 drive that's $199 at Amazon right now. Now, amongst the 1 terabyte and 2 terabyte NVMe storage, there's a lot of options under $100, and none of them are particularly shining above the others. They all have the same warranty, the same support, the same everything, similar read and write speeds. All of that's pretty much the same. Nobody's giving away anything for free. The more you spend, the more you're going to get, with diminishing returns. Like the Seagate FireCuda 530 is another $100 more. I think the Western Digital actually runs faster than that. So given a choice between the FireCuda 530 4 terabyte and the SN850X 4 terabyte from Western Digital, I buy the Western Digital, but not at $399. It's gone on sale for $349, and I think even $329. I'll buy it at that price. But for everyday use, the Team Group, anything from Team Group is always a good value. And if I want performance with warranty, I go Samsung. SanDisk still makes a good SSD as well. So there's so many to choose from. But nowhere on that list will you see Crucial. I just don't like them. I didn't have any choice. If I wanted a Gen 5 NVMe, that was the only one on the market right now that was available for me to buy. So I bought it so I could make a video. How long did it take you to render videos then compared to now? Well, I was doing standard definition videos that were limited to 15 minutes in length. And I was also just learning how to do editing. So it took a long time. Now I know how to do the editing, at least the kind of editing I need to do, but I'm rendering out HD video. And on the Mini PC Reviews channel, I've made a sub channel just to put the Mini PC Reviews. I'm taking all the live videos at 1080 and I'm upscaling them to 4K and rendering them out and then re-uploading them. So that's a 40 to 50 gig file size that gets uploaded to YouTube. YouTube takes about 3 or 4 hours just to process that. But it's the same content that's upscaled. So to take, say, a 3-hour video and upscale it to 4K on the 11th gen Intel with a 3070 mobile graphics card is about an hour and a half. But I could play with the bit rate because that's what YouTube's cutting the bit rate on it. And I did a little bit, but I'm afraid to take it too low. But if I take the bit rate lower, then I can have a smaller file size, which means the render time won't take as long. So overall, I'm not doing much in the way of editing anymore, cranking out live videos, because in the time it takes me to edit a video, I can have 5 new videos out. Since those 5 videos will get the same number of views and earn me the same amount of money as the one I spend hours editing, there's no financial sense in the editing anymore. It's all about content. Nobody cares how good the content looks. They just want more content. If you spend way too much time editing, so you're only publishing 1 video or 2 videos a month, your channel's never going to grow. You might have the best looking videos that nobody's ever seen. You go live, you shoot it, you move on, move to the next one. Yeah, you're going to have imperfections. People are going to see you're a human being, and you've got to be willing to accept that you're not going to make yourself out to be Superman in editing. You're going to have bad moods and bad days and bad luck. Things are going to happen. You're going to make mistakes. So what? At the end of it, when you're done being live, it's forgotten. You start the next video live the next day or the next couple days, and it's a whole nother project. It's a whole nother subject. It's a whole nother opportunity to make yourself look like an ass. But nonetheless, whether you make yourself shine or you make yourself out to be an ass, it pays the same. The difference is whether or not are you making content. It doesn't really matter how much time you're spending on it, editing it, trying to make it right. I was doing that for a while. I was taking clips from these long videos and making shorter videos out of it. And it was very time consuming, and it resulted in fewer views and fewer amounts of accumulated traffic, resulting in less money. So I was working much, much harder to make the content in digestible pieces that people weren't watching, not at least at the scale at which they were watching it when it was live. So if the audience starts behaving differently, then of course I'll adjust. But for right now, look at how much content I put out in the last week and compare that with literally anybody who edits videos. You can't do both. So you can have variety of content, or a variety of a lot of content in a short period of time, or you can just pick something and polish it. So look at Patrick over at Serve the Home. He does an awesome job editing his videos, but he doesn't have a video every day. That would be impossible. The frequency with which he outputs videos is limiting his ability to grow. So on the other hand, he may not have enough material to do content every day, and he may still have another job he's got to do on top of doing the videos on the side. There's a lot to it, and how much time you've got to put into it, and who you're making it for. Are you making a little project movie, for yourself because you're into filmmaking? That's a different thing than what I'm doing. This is a classroom. I'm a teacher. This is how I look at it. This is my perspective. And like any teacher, good days and bad days, good days in school, bad days in school. And sometimes the students are having a bad day too. But at the end of the day, the bell rings and we all start again tomorrow. That's sort of the agenda I'm following on my YouTube channel, is to treat it like a classroom. That's why it's important for me to interact with the audience. When I did teach in the college, I always interacted with my students. Did you say you use a free video editing program? No, I don't. I use Cyberlink Power Director. If you want to go free, you're going to work harder. So have at it. Download a program called DaVinci Resolve. And after about 45 minutes or an hour and a half, once you've downloaded it, then install it, watch it bring your computer to the knees, and then figure out how to use it. And then when you decide your time is worth more than that, pay the $99 for a year of Cyberlink Power Director, and everything is much easier to understand. It's so much easier. I don't know why anybody would use DaVinci Resolve who's not working in Hollywood or a professional movie production studio. But it's free if you want to download DaVinci Resolve. If your time is worth nothing, what's the rendering machine these days? Your laptop. Yeah, I've been using that 8th gen laptop to render my videos. And then it started crashing on me. Last night, I was rendering out a couple of those. I did the AD15 and was upscaling it to 4K. And it crashed on me. So I took it over to the 11th gen Dell XPS. I have not put Cyberlink on to the Galaxy Book 3 yet. But I can tell you that the rendering time, whether I'm using the onboard GPU on the Intel chip or the mobile RTX, it's not a big difference. It's a little bit faster by, so instead of taking, let's say, an hour and 50 minutes, it takes an hour and 30 minutes. It's a time savings. It's not a big deal. And so normally what I would do is just let it render, and then I continue to use my laptop to check email and do everything else. So it wasn't like I wasn't using the laptop while it was rendering. It's rendering in the background, and I'm busy doing other things with the laptop. So don't think you need to have some massive video card, at least not with Cyberlink Power Director. Now, if you're using DaVinci Resolve, that's a whole nother, you ask somebody else. I'm not an expert on it. I don't intend to be. It's a big can of worms, it's a bigger boat than I need for my fishing, okay? It's way too big. It's a yacht for what I'm doing, which is just bass fishing on a yacht, which is just, yeah, it's just me. Doesn't make any sense. Oh, Chris McGraw mentions Intel's AV1 encoding. I've not used that, but I hear it's massively improved rendering times. It's supposed to be amazing, but I haven't yet had an opportunity to try AV1 encoding. I have machines that can do it. I just not quite sure what the settings are in CyberDirector to take advantage of it. I'm sticking with what I know works so I can get it done instead of studying it and studying it and studying it. And in the meantime, all these other plates I'm trying to spin are starting to fall and crack. So there's a balance of time, but I do intend to look into it because it's supposed to make a massive improvement in rendering time. All right, guys, thanks again for watching. Thanks for hanging out. We'll use this board in something. I'm not sure what yet. I'll throw it in a case with a power supply. It'll be a good business class machine, literally good for anything but gaming. So we can keep that Gen 5 with, and we won't even put a card in it. We're going to keep the onboard video. I think I'm going to keep that cooler. I like it. I wasn't planning on it, but it's way better than I expected. I've got 2 more of these coming, like I said, because the price dropped $40 in the few hours since I ordered it. So this one will go back, or one of the extras will go back. And then the extra one that's left over, that's going to get used on a build that Mitch and I are going to do, hopefully this Friday. I'm using a case that no other YouTube channel has ever shown before. So again, I'm trying to bring you guys something different, something you're not going to find anywhere else. I'm not saying it's better, and I'm not saying you should buy it, but I am saying you're going to look at that and go, I've never seen that before. So that's my goal. Just want to show you new stuff. Whether or not it has any value to you, that's for you to decide. Thank you for watching. Thanks for all the contributions and support during today's video. I will look forward to seeing all the members tomorrow. Every Monday at 1 o'clock, I do live videos for the members only. And that's my way of just giving my members time. Because of them, I am able to do half of these videos, at least half, I would not do without their support. So my deepest appreciation to all of the members of the Tech Club for supporting what I do here. And, you know, all this stuff is paid for, none of it's sponsored, and wouldn't have been possible without you. So if you see somebody in the chat with that little gold badge next to their name, it's likely because of them this video happened today. Thank you so, so much to even those who for any reason can't or won't contribute, but they do contribute by hanging out in the chat room and participating with me. That I appreciate a lot. So, you know, I can't mention everybody by name, but I will say that this as a community, it's not a community if there's 3 or 4 of us. It's only a community if there's bigger numbers. And I hope to see the community continue to grow with other like-minded and kind individuals. And those who choose to support it, all that means is it enables me to make more content. And I can keep doing this more often. So thank you, Camera Girl. All right. I'll see you members tomorrow, Monday, 1 o'clock. Bye for now.